Well, Papa, thank you for spending some time talking to us about your life, and we've been wanting to get this on camera for a long time. You've got a
Yeah,
lot of important stories, and we're excited to hear them. Um, so, once you start, we'll start with your childhood. Tell me a little bit about yourself, where you were raised, and tell me about your early childhood.
yeah. My name is Joseph S. Simcoe, and I was born December the 18th, 1929. And the thing about it, my full name is Joseph Sidney Simcoe. They started naming me Joseph Ab, but praise the Lord that they've changed it to Sidney. I grew up in Mountainburg, Arkansas. I was one of 7 kids, and all 7 was born in the house. And the doctor had to come from about 15 to 25 miles, depending this Mulberry or Alma, to get to Mountainburg to deliver us. And I was next to the youngest one.
Yeah.
And I had one sister, and she was the oldest of the 7 kids.
You pretty close to your sister, being the only girl?
Well, not really, because war came along, and she was so much older than me. She went to defense plants in Kansas City to work in defense during World War II. But after my brother was killed in World War II, well, she came back to Mountainburg and be with my mother. And she got a job at Camp Chaffee in the finance office, payroll office.
Yeah. Sydney was way better, huh? Well, now you said that you had some siblings. Will you tell me their names real quick?
Well, my sister Alma Lee, and Bill was the oldest son, and Hayden, next to oldest, he's the one that lost his life P-38 part of World War II.
Well, now going back to your childhood, your older brothers. What were some things you all did as kids? Like, what was some of your pastimes you would do?
Pastime,
Mm-hmm.
well, it's different in ages, but the brother's just older than me. Pete, we loved to hunt, coon hunt, possum hunt, and we would dry clean them. We stretch them over boards, and then we check them every 3 or 4 days to get the fat off. And if it got real dry, then our buyer would come and buy those fur from us. The coon would bring about $2.50, $3 a possum, about 75 cents to a dollar.
What'd you all do with the money that you made off the pelts?
Well, we saved it mostly.
What did you end up spending it on?
Oh, well, sometime clothes or something, a candy bar, and a cold drink.
Yeah.
But
I don't know if you helped out your mom and dad
well,
with that, or
in a movie, the guy would come once a week and have movies in school auditorium. I think it cost about 15, 20 cents to see a movie. Western movie, Gene Autry, Roy Rogers, and those type of people.
so you all went to the movies a lot as kids?
Do what?
You went to the movies a lot as a child?
Well, not too many. In the summertime, a tent came to there and stayed 2 weeks showing movies. They was from up here at Springdale, and they were grape growers, and that was one of the money they made extra. 2 brothers would come down and spend 2 weeks, and they drive back and forth every day to Mountainburg to show those movies in a tent.
Yeah.
And
Now, what about was there any type of fairs or county fair, circuses, that sort of thing you all would do?
yeah, one time I met elephants came through there and had a few elephants, but not very big. But I know the droppings on that thing was big as a football.
Yeah.
But it's unbelievable.
Who taught you all how to hunt? You said you would trap and hunt with your brothers. Who taught you that?
Well, we set steel traps, and we weren't smart enough to try to get a mink. You had to go to water to put them in, but we weren't smart enough to. The mink at that time, mink would bring around $35
Oh boy,
for a hide. Yeah, they use a fur coat,
that's a lot better than a 75-cent possum.
Yeah, a lot more profit for that. The rich people, they had mink coats, and was popular till the animal rights came along and had to ship them all to Russia and other countries.
Yeah. Now, you did a lot of trapping. Did you hunt for meat as well, or just? Just trapping.
Well, the only thing we hunted meat was squirrels, and then we did a lot of quail hunting on our farm. We had a lot of quails, you know, what we call coveys.
Yeah.
There might be 10 or 15 birds in a covey or quail, and they was really prime meat back then.
Did you hunt with a shotgun?
I had a 22.
Okay. Who bought you that 22?
With single shot 22.
Was it the family gun?
Yeah, it's communities.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we had two dogs, Bob and Shelp. They were squirrel dogs, and at one time they was migrating through this part of the country in a drought season in Oklahoma, and those two dogs was responsible for us getting 700 squirrels.
Golly.
Yeah, and one dog would go anybody to hunt with it, but one dog wouldn't go anybody but a family member.
Well, tell me a little bit about your mom and dad. What were they like?
Well, Daddy grew up in Fayetteville for a while. He had 2 years of college, and my aunt was his sister. She graduated at the university, I believe, in 1877 something. She was the first one.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the only building there maybe was Maine, you know,
Maine,
at
yeah.
that time. But then they moved to Fort Smith, spent the rest of their lives in Fort Smith. And Uncle Walter was quite a baseball and a basketball player. He played basketball and baseball for the University of Arkansas. He grew up in the orphanages in Little Rock area where he got his thing.
I missed it. What was your mom and dad's name?
My dad was named Thomas Simco, and Mama named Iva Pearl.
Iva Pearl?
Peters.
Peters?
Yeah.
I heard your dad ran a grocery store for a while.
He ran a grocery store during the Depression and lost everything he had. Mama put a stop to borrowing any more money in order to save the farm. And then we had several hundred acres of farm there, and had a stream about a mile and a half that ran through it, Frog Bayou. And we had a lot of fun fishing in that, swimming in it, you know. I mean, one time Daddy said, I'm going to take you boys over to High Banco to swim tonight. And we went over and we just jerked off naked, you know. And back then there wasn't any houses around, and we started swimming. He said, well, I see you boys already been here, haven't you? And we had. So we had a lot of fun growing up, you know. But fish, you couldn't believe there's different species of fish in that, until they built all those lakes, and not hardly any water going through there, very little. But we had 2 big springs on our farm, and boy, was it cold.
Who taught you how to fish?
Oh, I guess just Daddy, you know, and Mom. My older brother, really, Hayden, was one that lost in World War II. I mean, at one time, he was going to go over and fishing, and he's taking his gun. Mama said, no, you can't go with him. He's taking the gun. And, of course, I was a crybaby. I began to cry. And Hayden heard me. He came back. Type of brother he was, put the gun up and tucked me. He was the peach of a brother, I tell you.
You sound like he was a role model. And a heavy
yes,
loss.
He was a real model. He was in college, and then when they mobilized him, he went to Alaska, you know, fought Japan there, and he went to flight school. He got tired of sitting dark and went to flight school, and he had a chance to stay in the state, be a instructor, but he says more in danger being an instructor, and it was going off to war. And he had 33 missions in World War II, and he was a photo reconnaissance pilot located in Burma. And he went up to get ready for his 34th mission that night for supper, and I think the engine gave away on him. Allison engine was known to be an Allison time bomb.
Yeah.
It was quite an engine when it was running, but it had some history of being bad at time, you know. And we think, and he was crashed in a river that was flowing, and we wanted to bring his body back. There wasn't anything to bring back. So I remember it was when we got the news. It was a very sad day.
Well, I've heard stories about how your mom was a very strong woman, and she
Mama,
helped guide the family.
she was a very strong woman. She was a hard worker. She grew up on a dirt farm down south of Mountainburg, a community called Lancaster, and they grew a lot of vegetables and stuff, shipped them out on train. Train run by their house, Frisco Railroad, and they shipped a lot of stuff out, like squash and stuff, to up in Cincinnati and up in that area, Cleveland, Ohio, and another thing. They in Christmas time they get this cedar that had the berries on it and packed it in bushel baskets and sent it up in there for Christmas decorations. And that was before plastic came along, you know.
Yeah.
It was quite a business. And mistletoe, they'd get the mistletoe and ship that too.
And they would pick that up out of the forest around there.
That was really a good money making thing back in there.
Did she do that with her siblings?
Do what?
Did she have siblings?
Yes, they was 9 in their family, 5 girls and 4 boys,
Oh boy.
and she was the oldest. She had some German background in her, and she was a hard worker and very smart. In fact, Benny, she run the farm. She loved to read about, farming, and then she would read every medical book she could get. And sometimes doctor would make it. She'd help deliver babies, you know.
Really?
Yeah.
So, so she did. Did she ever go to any kind of schooling?
What, John?
Did she ever go to any schooling? Schooling?
She had a 10th grade education, and Daddy had 2 years of college.
Mm-hmm.
But Daddy became more laid back. My mama wanted to learn, and she did. She read everything she could get a hold of.
She didn't let her shortcomings she didn't let them. Her shortcomings stop her from being who she was. I heard your dad. He came from some money, right? Your father?
My grandfather was came in here from Illinois, and my grandmother came from Tennessee, and they met in this area and got married. And he was a money maker, but he had to have losing a lot of it too at the time. But before he died, he had a lot of land in Mountainburg and stuff. But he had a beer in Oklahoma that he had that made from honey. And I guess he could able to make that in Oklahoma instead of Arkansas. And he had the first dry cleaning in Oklahoma City. So he knew how to make money, but he knew how to lose it too.
Yeah.
But he held on to his land all that time, which my daddy and my aunt inherited. And we had it whenever my mother died. My mom died by our 6 kids sold it, and so it's not. I got a brother still there, and we still got some land at Simcoe's, but it's all.
Well, it sounds like between loss of your brother and your dad going through some difficult times, that your family went through some difficult times in your childhood. Do you remember any really positive times, any fun memories, or things you really enjoyed as a child?
Well, we had a grove outside the house, about an acre, had all sugar maples, and we would play out there with toys we made. We'd take a toy, cheese came in 5-pound wooden boxes then. We'd take that and trailer, and we'd take a 2x4 and make a cab out of it, so we had a tractor and trailer, and we put stuff in there. There's a mayapple that grew that on a vine about the size of a big golf ball or something like that, but shaped like a watermelon, and we put them in there, and you have loads of watermelon. We played in that grove, vapor grove down there, just hours at a time.
So that grove
toys that we made. We had a shop where we could make toys, and Daddy had a blacksmith shop where we could, shoe the horses, put shoes on the horses and stuff. So we had a shop that we could make things in.
Yeah.
And brother just told me he's making a boat one day and dropped a hot bucket of tar on a bare foot, and that wasn't fun.
Where'd you guys go on that boat?
Boat
Yeah.
or on the river on Frog Bayou.
You fish a lot out of that boat?
Oh yeah, I tell you, we have about 15 different species, and that we even caught a jack salmon there one time. I think it probably came out of Arkansas River, up through there. That ran into Arkansas River at Alma, south of Mountainburg.
Mm-hmm.
And
Tell me about the house you grew up in. What was it like?
well, we had it was L-shaped, and 2 rooms was logs, but I never remember it being a log. They'd already boarded it up and everything. Had 2 fireplaces in it. We burned wood heat. Even in the cook stove was heat. And we got cold morning. Cold morning burning coal. We thought that was something else. When propane came in, butane came in first, and you had to bury the tank, and then propane was your tanks on the outside. Now that was something,
Yeah.
when we got that. And we didn't get electricity till 1937. GE, Oklahoma Gas and Electric Company, put electricity in the Mountainburg. Their headquarters in Oklahoma City, I mean Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I remember just a single light bulb. First we got was a single light bulb from the ceiling hanging down.
What room was the light bulb in?
What now?
What room was the light bulb in?
Well, we had a light bulb in every room.
Okay, so it was a single light bulb in every room.
Yeah. Before that, we used lead lamps and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
We'd play checkers, dominoes, at night. And
What was your favorite game as a kid? You said checkers and dominoes. What else?
well, we had a game called Pitched at that time with cards, That was, and Monopoly, I believe, was a big growing up too. It was still there. It's changed a lot of the signs now, different things,
Yeah.
I just learned the other day, they deleted some of the pictures on Monopoly and put in something more modern now.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Well, tell me, who was the best cook around the house?
best cook?
Yeah.
Oh, my mother was a super cook.
What did she cook?
Oh, I tell you what, she can best make biscuits and gravy, bacon. Daddy did all the smoking, and you talk about good smoked bacon, sausage and stuff.
Where'd y'all get the pig?
Do what, John?
Did you raise the pigs that you slaughtered? Or?
Yeah, we raised a pig and slaughtered them. And the first we killed, the first cold spell, that was around November,
Mm-hmm.
around Thanksgiving, pretty close. And I knew what we were going to have for dinner that day was liver and onions.
Liver and onions.
Yeah.
Now, I know you raise cows now. Did you guys always have cattle growing
We
up?
always had cattle. We had probably around 70, 80 herds.
Really?
Yeah. Herds.
That's a substantial
No, I
amount.
mean cattle, individual one herd mounted about
Yeah.
that many animals.
So how many acres did you guys have at that homestead, that farm?
Well, at that time, Hereford was a main breed at that time, and there's not too many Herefords left in the country except out west. They like the range. They range out in the desert-like area, and they still have horns out there. But now the genetics has changed that and bred hornless pole Herefords. Now you see a lot of pole Herefords, but we had the horned Hereford with Prince Domino was a breed, and that was the most popular Hereford at that time.
Yeah.
But we had one time, our bull railroads come in. They sometimes they supposed to maintain the fence, and sometimes animals get out and get killed, and they'd have to pay for it. And I know we had this one bull. He weighed about a ton, and he got killed, and everybody was gone except mother and my younger brother. Daddy was gone to shipyard, and everybody else in the army. And the guy came to adjust that bull, and he knocked on the door, and Mama told him, said, "No, I don't know anything about this. My son here, Joe, will talk to you." He looked around me and said, "Boy, he's pretty young, isn't he?" said, yeah, I think he's about 13 or 14, I think what I was at that time. And he talked about, and I said, well, you know, this Prince Domino is one of the outstanding breeds of bulls now. He said, what do you think that bull will weigh? I said, he weigh a ton plus. He said, what do you think it's worth? And I said, what do you think it's worth? He said, oh, $200. I said, oh, you way off, you way off, you way off. And he said, well, what do you think? I said, $600. Oh, he said, boy, you really think it's really something. I said, yeah, you already told me that Prince Domino Bulls was always said, yes, I said, I don't know why, it's always the best one to get killed. And I said, well, I'm glad you recognize that then. And so we finally settled for $550 that day. He went in and wrote a check to my mother, and he said, I don't know about you, son. I think you got to me.
Your mom must have thought pretty highly of you to put you in that sort of negotiation.
I've been wanting to take care of the cattle and everything. I used a lantern to feed them before I go to bed, put the hay and stuff out. When I play basketball, I'd run home and do it, my chores, and get on the bus and go play basketball, you know.
Yeah.
But
did the rest of the family work the cows as well, or was it mainly you?
Well, we had a guy that worked on the railroad, you know, and he'd help me some.
Yeah.
Named Mr. Hare. Mr. Hare couldn't read or write, you know, but his son was my best friend. And neither one could read, but she could look at you and make one of the prettiest pair of trousers or shirt or whatever you dress. And he was so good. I ever saw Paul Bunyan with an axe. He was it.
What was your best friend's name?
What, I remember him?
What was your best friend's name?
My friend?
Yeah.
His friend was Clyde Hare, and his daddy was Francis Hare. And I can't think right offhand the mother, but she was oh, they'd find people, and he'd help me split posts out of catalpa trees.
Clyde did?
No,
or Dad?
His daddy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did you and Clyde do for fun? What was your?
Well, Clyde, I believe he was a good enough catcher on that team that I think he could have made the pro, but thing came along and his mother needed him, you know, and I know Northside wanted us to come down and play a game, and that's for Southside didn't even exist. That's the only high school in Fort Smith. And the coach, I was the only left-handed batter on the team, and he said, Joe, instead of playing third, I'm going to let you lead off today. Whatever, coach. That old pitcher, he threw me one ball outside, and I said, golly, I should have hit that. Well, next time he threw one on inside on me, and I said, boy, he almost hit me. And I said, well, next one is on the outside, and that's my pitch. I hit that to opposite field, left field for a triple. I got home. We led 7 innings. We were playing 7 innings that day. We led 1-0. Our shortstop made 2 errors, and he was a good shortstop. Mm-hmm. And they beat us 2-1.
Really?
Yeah. When we was in the field, the coach had 2 guys sitting with him. When they were in the field, they had about 2 and 3 teams sitting on the bench. You know, if we'd have beat them, that'd have been unheard of, you know.
Tell me real quick, some of your favorite foods as a kid that your mom made. You said biscuits and gravy?
Biscuits and gravy.
That was the best one?
For breakfast.
Yeah? What about for lunch? What was the best food she made?
Well, we always, I remember on Sunday morning, she'd go out and wring the necks on chickens. Organic chickens. Back then.
All organic.
Yeah. And she cooked them for lunch. Now, she didn't go to church, but us boys went. Tom and I went to Presbyterian Church, and the other one went to Fieldway Baptist Church down Pigeon Creek.
Why did you all go to different churches?
Huh?
Why did you guys go to different churches?
Well, I guess we were more liberal in that Presbyterian.
Okay.
But anyway, a lot of our friends went there. We had a lot of teenagers went to that church. We was all close.
Okay.
And so we went there, and Tom and I, and the other went to the other church. But Mama stayed home and cooked all the time for all the kids, you know. But my mother, during World War II, she was head of the Red Cross. She did bond drives where, sell bonds and stamps, to help pay for the war.
Mm-hmm.
She was in charge of that at Mountainburg.
What else did she do? Did she work in the school,
She
or
was
did she help you out?
head cook at the school.
Okay.
Yeah. She made all the menus and everything.
Did she do a lot of the cooking too there?
Oh, yeah.
Did what did she make for the school? Like, what were some of the food she made?
What
What were some of the cafeteria meals that she would make?
Well, they had commodities there. They give different things like cheese, and stuff like flour and beans and all that kind. And they most at schools was get them, and she'd take that and make good meals. In fact, being neighbors tastes pretty good. Kids all liked it. And I know some of the kids would work sitting thing, pay for their meals,
Yeah.
That,
Do you ever remember any of your birthdays growing up?
no, we never had no birthday. Mama always had a cake, and that's about it.
What kind of cakes did she make?
Well, usually chocolate.
Always chocolate?
Yeah.
Do you ever remember any of the birthday gifts you ever received as a kid?
Remember them?
Do you ever remember a toy or a gift that you ever got as a kid for your birthday?
I don't remember getting any toys.
You ever have a bicycle as a kid?
Well, I finally got one when I was fairly old. Daddy found one in Fort Smith. He worked for Highway Department in Fort Smith. He was in the district office there. At Fort Smith, he traveled from Mountainburg there. And he found one second-hand. It was real good. I think at that time he paid $15 or $16 for it, but it's just like new. That was my first bicycle.
What color was that bike?
Kind of greenish.
Yeah. Did you have to share that bike, or was that yours?
Oh, everybody.
Everybody used it?
Yeah.
Did you ever go on any family vacations as a kid?
Not at all.
No?
I never left Mountainburg except go to Fort Smith and cross the river. There's stockyards when we take cattle over there to sell it at the stockyards at Moffett across the river there in Fort Smith. And I remember one time we took a load over there and had a guy named Nelson. And I said, well, after you unload these cattle, we go to the Green Frog Cafe and eat his breakfast. And the waitress come along, we ordered breakfast and said, hey, you like your eggs? And he got to him, he said, hey, mister, how you like your eggs? He said, boy, I like them.
I like them.
So we got a breakfast and come back. But his name was Nels Rankins.
Yeah.
I want to go back to my mother a minute.
What about her?
Mama wasn't a strong churchgoer, but she was a Christian. She lived by helping people. She never turned down anything. Hobos at that time, you never heard of hobos?
Mm-hmm.
They come, and they always knew to come to Mama's house to get something. She'd always fix them a little meal to eat.
What kind of meal would she fix for
Well,
them?
she would pack something, be on their way, But they knew, and I think the word got around, at that time, that they always knew where to go, but she always gave them something to eat. And we had plenty of food, because most of it, we canned food in half-gallon jars. And we had fruit trees, apples, peaches, and all that kind. We had muscadine grapes. We had everything, canned. No freezer at that time.
Now,
Only thing we had was ice box.
I heard that your dad, even though he had a failed business, he was very benevolent. He gave away a lot of things.
He had at that time, I think somebody told me he had about $60,000, and that's a lot of money back then, that he helped people take the little books, they credited them, And after thing got over there was 3 guys that paid him, and one of them paid his own and his mother's bill. And I don't know who the third guy, but...
the way that they raised you, did that have a big impact on you and the way that you carried on your life?
Well, yeah, I tell you back during Depression days, and I was born in 29, I call myself a Depression baby. And it lasted for about 4 years. And there's so many cattle and hogs that the government came in and bought them. They couldn't sell them, but they had to destroy them. And this government man come in, and I don't know how many Daddy had to slaughter and everything, but he told this man, government man, said, see this mountain on there? Said, the man up there got 5 kids that are starving to death. And this government man said, Mr. Simco, I cannot tell you. I'm not allowed to tell you to take him any meat. But he said, one thing I will do, when I step off your farm and back to me, I'll never look back. Well, that gave Daddy the out. He took meat to that family.
So it sounds like you guys were always thinking of other people, very generous.
He was he was too generous. But we survived that. They paid the farm off. He went to the shipyard and they paid it for him. We stayed, brother and my younger brother, myself, Mama running the farm while he was gone. We kept it going with a little bit of outside help. Mr. Harry was good to help us.
Yeah.
And so we made it. But we knew what work were. And I still know what. That's the reason I enjoy doing it now. I tell the kids, don't worry about me. I said, I've had a good life. And I'm not afraid to die, I told them several times. I am afraid of getting in a wheelchair and can't walk. But before dying, I'm ready to go whenever they're going. But
tell me about your school. Were you pretty good with your grades?
Well, we had a big school, you know, but there was 16 in our grade graduated.
Yeah.
8 girls and 8 boys.
Did school come easy to you?
Well, I about middle ways. Girls all top. There was a boy, valedictorian, lived to him, you know. But my goal was to get to college. When I only got 2 years down at Tech, and that's all I could get in agriculture, and I had to come to university to finish my BS. And so I did that.
Now, sports was a really big deal for you in high school.
Well, yeah.
What did you play?
Basketball and baseball. I was the tallest man on the team, but the only thing I did was jump center. And we had a guy came in, El Reno, Oklahoma, was pretty hefty, and he kind of, about 6 foot, he kind of filled the center up for me. But I was fast and could dribble, so I was known as a running guard then, what they call a point guard now. I could penetrate and shoot outside, little jump shot, go in. And so we had a good team. We made district. I made all district, you know, as a junior high. And then I made all district as a senior in a senior team. But make all state then it's not different now. You had to go to state and win, you know, be in a state tournament to make that then. Now, you know, they pick them now. It's not different. But I know at the night that Monday morning when I got news that Hayden passed away, come and told me, said, your mama needs you home. Nobody, I was a man of the house then. And so I went home and found out, you know, and I don't know whether my mother knew where she was 4 or 5 days still. It really hit her really hard.
I bet.
And so I wasn't going. I had a pretty important game. They said coming up on Wednesday, and I wasn't going to play. And the boys all came to the house that night, wanted me to play. They said, I think Hayden would want you to play. And my mom, she said, Joe, I think you ought to go play. I think the boys are right. So I went and played that night. And
well, that probably meant a lot to her that you were there.
Yeah.
Now, whenever I was in high school, I did a lot of stupid things, a lot of dumb decisions. Do you remember anything like that? Making bad decisions, dumb decisions as a high schooler?
Well, yeah, I played hooky on April Fool Day one time.
Where'd you go?
Well, we had to know up toward Chester Creek, we had to build a raft up there. So that's where we went up there. We were going to ride that raft to Mountainburg about time school took out. Well, the superintendent, Mr. Baker, had a son. He's about a grade behind me, and he's going to go. And I said, now, I don't think you ought to go. I don't think your daddy's superintendent. He'd like it. He said, I'm going. I said, you know, we may get in trouble when you come back. I'm going to give this. I'm going to go." I said, "All right, now. I want to tell you, I'm thinking I made a bad decision." So we went, came back, and next morning he called me in. He said, "Did you ever get a spanking?" I said, "Yeah, Mama," but I said, "That's the last one. That's the last I'm going to take too." And he didn't say nothing else. And so I had to kind of ace in the hole. And I said, "Now you know, expel me or whatever you want to, but I'm not taking no spanking." And I said, "I want to say something to you now." You go ahead." I said, "Your son played hooky with us. I tried to discourage him from going, but I said, you ought to be proud of that son." I said, "He did something today on his own. He wasn't afraid what to punish him. He was thrilled to do something on his own. He made a big decision." I said, "He grew up today."
Yep.
And that guy kind of bowed his head down. He said, "Well, I'm glad to hear that." But that kid was so happy. He felt like that somebody always had a hand on him, afraid he's going to do something bad, I couldn't talk him out of it.
It seemed like there was another story you told me about your coach and what you told him. Do you remember what I'm talking about? Your
The coach, when I got through playing, at that time when you got through playing junior high, in the ninth grade, well, you could be able to go on the senior team.
mm-hmm.
I think, to play with that in the tournaments, And he said, "I want you to play." He picked me to go on the senior team. He said, "I'm going to start you." I said, No, you're not going to start me." "Why?" I said, "Well, my friend's on the senior team." I said, "You think I'm going to go in and start? I said, "That's not right. That's not right for the players. Played on that scene and then somebody on the junior team come in and take a starting position." I said, "That is not right." I said, "Now, I will play on the team." At that time, we had quarters, 4 quarters. I said, "I won't go until the second quarter if you need me." And I said, I don't want to play any of the first quarter." So that's what I did.
Your coach, your superintendent, the adjuster at the railroad. You didn't seem like you had any fear of confrontation or talking to people about, your opinion on things. Where'd you think you got that from?
Well, my mother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was that strong.
She was strong in her opinion.
Yeah.
And she usually right a lot of time, I don't know how she did everything, You head to Red Cross up in our area, the drive for. Another thing, John, I'm proud of our school. I hooked the mules up on Springfield wagon, and about 12 of us boys would go all over the countryside getting scrap iron.
Mm.
This went on for weeks till we got no iron to get. And we'd take that and load it in boxcars. Frisco Railroad ran through our farm. And we did that for week after week on the weekend. And they make guns and tanks and everything then, scrap iron.
How old were you whenever you were driving those mules, picking up scrap?
Well, I was still in probably junior high.
So 13, 14, something like that?
Of course, I grew up, I knew how to work mules and stuff. We had a guy who worked the farm for us. And in fact, I was closer to him probably than my daddy. And
what was his name?
Brian Ross.
Yeah.
He had a son named David Ross. David used to come see me. I was his, what do you call it? Oh, he taught a lot of me.
Adoptive son, maybe?
Well, he thought I was hot stuff, I guess, or something. But his son was coach at Stallone till about 2 years ago.
Hmm.
His name was Brian Ross, but he got in that school over there, playing big boys, and he couldn't get his guys little, so he resigned last year, went assistant coach someplace. But Davey used to come and see me when he up here, and he was come out to be a good guy. He lives in Clarksville now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. In high school, do you remember any of your teachers from school?
Yeah, Miss Canoa was an English teacher. She was a good one. And, we didn't have too much of science at that time. I knew what a Bunsen burner was and a flask, and chemistry stuff like that. And when I went to college, that's another story, taking chemistry. I took chemistry, everything I could, the first semester, English and all this kind of stuff. And I only had one in chemistry. The only time they ever seeded alphabetically. And the guy that's named Smith sat close to me. He was from the north side. Man, I thought that's the smartest guy I ever saw. And boy, I was studying something hard on it. And I'll tell you, after a while, I did pass it. And do you know that guy flunked it? Hey, tell you, well, guess what I made?
What's that?
You want to guess?
You aced it?
Aced it.
Aced it.
And the teacher said, you run scared and you studied. I said, well, what happened to that guy? I said, well, I left him after a week or so. Said, he didn't study. Can you believe that guy flunked that thing?
Well, some things come easier to others, and sometimes when they come so easy, they take it for granted, don't they?
Yeah.
Now, you played a lot of sports in school, and it sounds like you were a pretty good player. Did that help you? Were you popular then because of that, or?
Oh, no, the girls wouldn't know my mind at that time.
No high school sweethearts?
No, not serious.
Yeah.
No. I just had one serious and I married her.
Did you have a lot of friends in high school?
Yeah, a lot of friends.
What did you all do, typically?
Well, we did our Sunday school class, about 15 of us teenagers, and we had the best Sunday school teacher, man and his wife, and their daughter was named Jonelle also, and I believe that was one of the prettiest girls I ever saw. But she was just as nice, she was prettier too. And we had picnics, and always has Easter breakfast at their house, and a lot of times have sunrise services up at Lake Fort Smith, and then we go to their house and have a sunrise breakfast,
Yeah.
So, yeah, we had a lot of things. We had a lot of close, See, the girls and boys rode the same bus to ball games. The girls played for the boys at that time. I don't know what it does now. Different, ain't it?
I seem to remember a story about you and your buddies going and trying to get beer or something. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah. We kind of pulled the money one night, and we were smart enough to know we hit this Roundup drive-in at about a little before, that's the time they closed. And this black guy was a hop. I'd say he'd probably, like Uncle Remus, the Song of the South, if you ever saw that.
Mm-hmm.
You ever see that movie? Of course, they outlawed it now. But anyway, he come out there. We just wanted to get the beer and to go to Lake Fort Smith, drink it, We didn't have enough money to get maybe a beer apiece, He looked in there and he said, how are you boys? And I said, oh, I just turned 21. And he looked and he said, you boys sure don't look at old. But he said, I know little stomach just dying for it. I'm going to let you have it anyway.
You let it slide.
So we got it and took it back to Lake Fort Smith.
When did you start driving?
I think Tom actually, the younger brother, driving more because I was working.
Yeah.
We had this old car. He had a pony. He'd deliver a bottle milk. He'd sell a bottle, quarter of milk. Glass bottle. We were milking the cow too, and we sold some neighbors like that milk. He put that on the pony bags and delivered up, and then they had that old car for a while, and he delivered that.
What kind of car was that? The first car?
39 Chevrolet.
That was the family car?
Yeah.
When did you start driving that car? How old were you?
Oh, I was 12.
12 years old. No wrecks?
No,
Clean record?
no. Clean record.
No.
Clean record.
When did you buy your first car?
When I came out of the Army, I had a job waiting on an agricultural extension service. And I paid $17.50 for a new Chevrolet. My job required it. I was assistant county agent. My job was Jonesboro, Arkansas. And I went there for 7 months, and they called me at Little Rock office and said, we got an opening in Pope County down at Russellville. We want to take you up there for an interview. Mm-hmm. Boy, I thought that's awfully quick. So I went up there and met the district agent. He was district agent on about 18 counties in northwest Arkansas. And we talked on the way up and went to the courthouse there at Russellville, sat in the interview and looked around. Men was old as I am now about it. Some of them had strapped overalls and just overalls, and there's one or two ladies in there. And it turned my time to talk. And I started to give them my history, and I said, well, this is just like second home to me. I said, I spent 2 years at Arkansas Tech University, and only get 2 years there in agriculture, and had to go to the University of Arkansas Fayetteville to finish up. And but I said, I know Mr. Craybar, and I named a lot of professors up there, And I said, I really enjoyed this, and I really enjoyed the town of Russellville. And I went on, and I said, I can see some of you think I'm looking pretty young. I was pretty young looking, to tell you the truth. And I said, I'm going to tell you one thing. I know y'all think I'm pretty young, but I'll tell you one thing I will promise, and the only thing. You won't find anybody who worked any harder than I will. One of them sitting in the overalls over, and he said, well, that's exactly what we need to hear.
Sold, huh?
Yeah, so I got the job. I think it was just made up anyway, I think. I was going to get it regardless of what I said, So I took that job.
Well, you weren't afraid to talk yourself.
Well, you weren't
afraid to tell the truth.
Well, that's yourself. The best move, and we'll get to that later.
Yeah. I want to go back a little bit. A big part of your life is, World War II, Korea War, Vietnam War. That's a big time of your life.
Well, I just missed World War II for about 4 or 5 years. Now, Brother Pete was only 17 out of high school, and he was only 18 and he got injured. And I asked him one day, was he scared? He said, Joe, I was scared to start with. I said, after a while, you just didn't care.
Yeah. But
he told me he was the 10th Mountain Infantry over there. And he said whenever the Germans was up in them mountains, they trained in Leadville, Colorado before they went over there, because that was mountainous up there. And he said when they came in there, why, Patton, when it came in there, them tanks and stuff, he said when Patton got them out in the desert, there wasn't anything left of them.
Yeah, ran them out.
Now, Patton was a blood and guts was his name, He rode his troopers. But the guy that was head of that 10 Mountain was from Fort Smith, Arkansas, Colonel Darby. But he made general 4 days he was killed. And he real expected. They named a lot of schools after him and things in Fort Smith. He's real thought as a citizen of Fort Smith and state of Arkansas and our country.
Now, going back to whenever you were a child, you were probably in junior high, 12 or 13 years old, whenever you heard about Pearl Harbor. Where were you whenever you first heard about that?
Well, Sunday morning on radio. Then at high school the next day, we met in assembly, and that's when we heard the speech of Roosevelt declaring war on Japan.
Did your brothers sign up immediately? Did your brothers sign up to go to battle immediately?
Well, Hayden was already, after 1 year of college, he was already in that National Guard. All that unit was Fort Bliss, Texas, and they was already shipped to Alaska. So they was figuring on there's something going to happen, but not that bad, It was a sneak deal. Mm-hmm. And he was there. in combat, you know, for a while. And until he got, they left there and probably went to Midway Island or Guam. And he came back and went to flight school.
As a child, do you remember having a lot of pride in your brothers doing what they did?
Yeah, see, Tom was in, well, I saw my brother, a couple of brothers that was back from World War II, but Tom was in Korea at that time. Jack was one, he couldn't get into that service because of a health problem, but he did work in the shipyard during all that time. And Pete was a World War I veteran. He was 17-year-old out of high school. He was 18-year-old fighting German in northern Italy when he was seriously wounded. And the three other guys hit in the foxhole, and Pete was the first to get in. The next guy on him, but the last two guys was killed immediately, and the guy on top of him lost a leg and an arm. And Pete only injured seriously in one leg. And the thing that he had to see in that fighting in Italy was something else, you know, had to be for him today.
What did he tell you about the fighting in Italy?
In Italy, I asked him a question one time if he's scared. He said, "Oh, you were when he first hit battle, but said you up there so long that you just didn't care, you know."
Was he an infantryman?
Yeah. 10th Mountain Infantry.
And what?
They were well known.
What town did you say he was fighting in and around Italy?
Do what?
What town did you say he was fighting in and around Italy?
Yeah, he didn't say. Just northern Italy in the mountains, you know. And like I said, he trained over around Leadville, and it was real rough mountains, you know.
Let's see. I believe they landed in southern Italy. Was he a part of that landing?
Yeah.
And then he helped push up north through Italy.
Well, I don't know whether he was in that not, because I doubt if he was, because he probably got it later in life, you know.
Yeah.
But it's quite a battle he went through. I know he sure did like General Patton, you know. He rode with his men, you know. But probably foolish, because he was killed there. He didn't make it out of there.
Tell me about Uncle Hayden and his role in the wars.
Well, you know, he loved to fly. He really liked to. He wanted to fly. Like I said, he could stay in the States and been an instructor, but he wanted that. He was a photo reconnaissance pilot. He didn't have guns, which made his plane about 75 miles an hour, that P-38. That was probably the fastest plane at the time. P-51 came later, but that P-38, if you remember, is double fuselage.
Yep.
In fact, we got a replica in there. Might want to put that in here after a while. And
what was the nickname they gave that?
What?
What was the nickname they gave the P-38?
Lightning 38. Lightning.
Well, it was the P-38 Lightning. What did the Germans call it?
Well, Devil with two tails.
Devil two tails. Yeah.
Yeah.
You think it could keep up with those Messerschmitts?
Do what?
Could it keep up with the Messerschmitts?
I don't know.
You don't know?
You probably know more about it than I do.
Where was he flew in Burma, right?
He flew out of Burma.
Was he always in Burma, or did he fly elsewhere?
No, he flew out there. And he said one of the most dangerous things with that mountains over there, the air currents were terrible, he said. You know, getting through there and getting in Japan. I think fighting Japan Zero wasn't no problem for him, because he could outmaneuver him, you know, he's faster and everything.
So he actually would fly into Japan from Burma?
Yeah. Round trip, not no refueling.
Yeah. That's something.
I don't know, didn't have a chance. Those tanks, did they drop them or not, or did they bring them back?
I don't know that. I don't know what they did with them.
Yeah.
If they emptied them. Now, that was Hayden.
Hayden, yeah.
And what about Bill?
Bill was in the Signal Corps. He's back behind the line, laying lines to the front, you know, mostly telephone communication.
Where was his theater?
He's in the Pacific Ocean.
So he was island hopping?
Yeah.
Guam?
Yeah.
Guadalcanal and whatnot?
Yeah, Hawaii.
Yeah. So he was the first to enter into battle?
Huh?
Bill was the first to enter of your brothers?
No, he was back behind the main line, laying communication
Okay.
to. He said their danger was snipers and trees and caves, if there are any caves, you know. Said that was a problem I had to watch, you know.
Whenever you were fighting, whenever you were in Panama training, did you feel like you had something to live up for your brothers? Like you were, that you were trying to live up to what they did?
You know, we never did object to going to service for our country. It never entered our minds.
Mm-hmm.
Where, you know, we had one religion, you know, was objector, you know. They didn't believe in it, you know, protecting their country. But they still take all the benefits of living in a free country.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of hard for me to understand that.
Well, I appreciate your service and what you did for this country. I've always looked up to you for that, and your brothers.
Well, I just hope wouldn't have to have any more. It's a terrible thing to be in war. You know, just people that are enemies, you know, a lot of them didn't want to. But, you know, take Hitler, man, that's terrible.
Yeah. You, with your older brothers and your dad being away in the shipyard and your older sister being away working in the, where did she
was
work?
working in, I guess, airplane plant in Kansas City.
So they were all away, and you were left to pretty much run and manage the farm.
I was man of the farm and house.
But you were still going to school and doing sports and running the house.
I did everything.
How did you manage all that? That's a lot to juggle as a kid.
Well, you know, you just had business to do, you know, and you took care of your business and everything, and we didn't have all the entertainment we got now to go to, you know, and so.
Do you feel like that made you?
We were self-entertained, us boys. I don't know what the girls did, but we hunt and fish and this sort of thing.
Do you feel like that made you grow up quick?
Yeah, definitely. It made you grow up fast because you know what you had to do, and you got actually a man at that age, really, you know, and make decisions. But Mama was good to make the right decisions. She was brainy.
What kind of big decisions did she have to make during that time when your dad was away?
What now?
What kind of big decisions did she have to make during that time while your dad was away?
Well, she had what kind of feed, you know, when we're going to sell our cattle and stuff. But like I say, she was real red on stuff, and she made a lot of good decisions. And she was president of the PTA there for years in Mount Work School, you know. And she would go to Fort Smith. They have a carnival, Halloween carnivals have one room for fishing poles, you know, that you put your pole over there, play some, and they put a prize on it, and you back it out of the door, you know. Cake walks and everything like that, you know. Raise money for schools. That was helped to buy books mostly for the library.
Had she been in the PTA for a long time?
I'm going to tell you about that little school down there. We had excellent teachers.
Yeah. We
had really good teachers in there. And they were really, I think of our 16, there was, I know there was 7 of us went to college out of that 16.
That's impressive.
Before I know, we all graduated.
Yeah. You said you had impressive teachers. What's something that you remember about them, your teachers?
Teachers?
Yeah.
Well, I know that English teacher pretty hard.
Yeah.
But Mama went to Miss Canoa. She said she never did have any kids. She was married. She never did have any kids of her own. Mom said, "You think Joe can make it in college?" She said, "Yes, he'll make it." I tell you why, he's a hard worker. Now I said, his buddy Don, now I don't know about him. Now he's going to be a question mark. And Don did have a problem because he got on the wrong gang, you know. He was in business,
yeah.
You know, and I was in a different thing. I had a lot of science, you know, so I had to grind up and get down.
Going back to after World War II and the Korean War, where were you when you first heard about that outbreak?
On Korean War.
Yep.
Well, that happened in 1949. I was senior in high school.
Senior in high school.
Yeah.
Did you know that you were going to be enlisting at that point?
Well, yeah, I was already signed up for it. I went to college, and I believe I'd already. Now I'm not sure, John, on that 49 because it might have been 51 or 2. I don't know. It was a fairly short war. You know, 3 or 4 years.
Well, Papa, we were going to talk about the time you were drafted in the Army of October of '53.
Yes.
So what happened after that? After you were drafted, where did you go?
Well, I went to basic training at Camp Chaffee, and then I went another second base at Fort Leonard. Was
How long were you at Chaffee?
8 weeks.
Was basic training? Was that pretty difficult?
Well, it's easier than it was second one at Fort Leonard, Missouri. They called that Little Korea, and it was very mountainous, you know, and cold. I know they took us out one night and could sleep and thing. We dressed in summertime, one of them, you know, Northwest Arkansas weather fronts.
Oh yeah.
And they took us back in. They had cake and coffee, hot chocolate for us when we got back. We were supposed to stay overnight, but we didn't.
How long were you in Leonard Wood?
About 8 weeks. 8 weeks.
Was that to mainly focus on explosives?
Yeah, I think we went because they didn't have any place to take us. You know, war was winding down some in Korea, so I think they didn't know what to do with us, so they still gave us another 8 weeks of basic, and then that's when I was selected to go to school in Fort Belvoir, Virginia. That's just across the Potomac from D.C.
So you were close to, you were close to home at Leonard Wood, right? Did you hitchhike any time at that point?
Yeah, I had to get out on the highway and come. Boy, I don't know why I did that on it. That's a long ways to get here to Mountain.
They wouldn't bus people back and forth?
No, I had a 3-day pass on that. You know, started early. And boy, I get over Missouri and it's kind of sleeting, not sleeting rain, but it was light rain. And boy, I was almost supposed to be back at 12 o'clock the day I was supposed to be back. I was just feeling, you know, the guy on duty there said, well, sign that in about 11:30.
So you hitchhiked there and back?
Yes.
Back to base?
Boy, I'd want to get home awful quick, didn't I?
Yeah. How many different sections did you, was that hitchhike broken up? Did you go with one person the whole way, or was it split up?
3 or 4 people.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How did you make it back?
Hitchhiking.
Same 3 or 4 people?
Yeah, had my uniform, you know, and that helped at that time.
Yeah, I bet.
And boy, after that, when that guy hitchhiker killed 5 people up here in Missouri, boy, nobody picked you up then. And
who were you coming back home to see at that point?
Huh?
Who were you coming back home to see?
My mom and dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were they proud of you? When you came back home, were they proud of you?
Oh, they didn't say. We didn't use that word too much around home.
Yeah.
We just knew that do our job and let's stay at that, you know.
Gotcha.
I was sure proud of all my older brothers.
Yeah.
Poor old Pete, I tell you, he went through heck over there in Italy.
Sounds like it. After you went to when you made it back to Leonard Wood, after you had your break, where did you go after that?
Went to school, learned explosives in Fort Belvoir, Virginia. That's just across the Potomac from D.C. Well, about the only thing separated D.C. and Belvoir, Virginia was the Potomac River.
Did you get a chance to go and visit D.C. while you were there?
Oh yeah, we went. We get on Saturday. They only let 50% of our class go. Well, me and my 2 buddies, we signed every. We didn't miss a time going. Nobody wanted to go. 10 cents we get over there, and we'd eat breakfast before we left. We wasn't supposed to come back, but we slept back in, sleep, and head out next Sunday morning and come back. We saw a lot of baseball. and the museum.
You went to do you go to the Smithsonian's?
Oh yeah, I still see that Spirit St. Louis hanging from the ceiling up there.
Do you remember anything else about the Smithsonian's?
Well, the Hope Diamond or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an amazing place.
Oh, it's probably several dozen times bigger now, I imagine.
Was Belvar easier than Leonard Wood?
Oh yeah, no comparison.
Yeah.
Linwood was tough.
In Belvar, you mainly focused on explosives, right?
Well, yeah, our classwork we didn't do more. We just do most of the classwork. We didn't do any. We out march everyone just for exercise, you know. But
did you do any hands-on explosives work in Belvar?
well, yes, that was our training. Yeah, a lot of it. That was our main thing. Actually, disposing of lines and stuff, and cutting railroad arms. You know, trying to.
Right after Belvar, where did you go?
Panama.
You were right to Panama. You didn't go back home?
No.
How did you get to Panama?
Boat.
All boat?
Yeah. And that was, you know, I used to get sick on Ferris wheels, but I didn't have any problem, and I never saw so many people get sick. My job was taking the trash and dumping it all back into the ship.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What else did you guys do on that ship? Did you was it a straight trip there to Panama, or did you stop at ports?
We stopped, but they wouldn't let anybody off. We
Yeah.
got Puerto Rico, we stopped. Just the big boys got off, but we didn't stay there just a few hours, you know.
Did they let you do any fishing off that boat?
No, not at all.
No.
Most of them too sick to fish.
Why do they pick you for explosives?
Well, I don't know. They was
You were dumb enough?
they're dumb enough to get in there, I guess. But there's 41 or 2 in that class, and there was 6 from West Point, assistant instructors, and they were full sergeants. They had stripes down and up, you know.
So they were from World War II at that point.
That's right.
Yeah.
Really nice people, and so I went to them when they got through. They had, "What'd you like to do?" I said, "Number 1, stateside. Number 2, Panama. German." And I said, "Well, I know I'm going to Korea, but I failed that out." And I would daggum if they didn't say Panama. Boy, I said, "Ain't that something?" I didn't know I was going to the first jungle training camp.
What was your role at the jungle training camp?
How to handle mines and stuff, you know what to do with it.
So you were a trainer of mines?
I was training them how to do it.
Did you ever get injured with explosives?
No. I tell you about that. I had a manual how to do it. And we trained us how to defuse one. And I told all them boys, I said, don't pay any attention to this manual. If you want to die, usually go ahead and start taking pins out of them. I said, you find the main thing, be careful. You try to find a mine, you know, and you put a quarter stick of dynamite on it. You put a cap on it, hook it up to your electric box and get just as far as you can away from it. Lay down with your head facing the opposite direction and put that plunger down and send that current to it. You'll see what I'm talking about.
Papa, we were just talking about you in jungle training camps. You're good to go. Jungle training camps and your role at the camp. You were mentioning you were a explosive tech and that you trained men there.
Yeah, we was an ammunition pioneer thing. We had all kind of tools and stuff in this, you know. Actually, they would go in sometime and prepare stuff like pontoon crossing and stuff, exposed bridges and stuff, you know, before the infantry get in, you know. It's probably one of the most dangerous jobs in the...
I'm surprised you said that nobody was injured while you were doing your training.
Yeah. You know, and you could take this explosive like, a C3 come almost like dough, what do you call it, putty dough?
Mm-hmm.
Clear thing. You put that around a railroad arm and you just cut it just like a saw.
Yeah.
You know, to keep the railroad coming through. But it was, I think, instead of C3, they got a C4 now. It's a little bit newer. but that's for the war over the jungle. But
Did you see a lot of men train through you and go on to fight in the Korean War in the Korean Peninsula?
well, I kind of lost contact with them. But one guy went to Panama with me. I don't know what he wasn't. I don't know what he did. He was in something else. But we had all these tools and stuff, and the lieutenant head of us, he wouldn't know if anybody ever had experience with tools and stuff. I held my hand up. I said, that was my main job, sir, when I was on the farm, keeping tools, axes and stuff all sharp. Well, okay, you're going to be in charge of the tools,
So did that get you out of anything, being the tool man?
Oh, yeah, let me tell you. Well, our platoon is going to cross the Isthmus from the Atlantic side to the Pacific side, about 60 miles. You live on the land. He come in one day and said, I got bad news for you, Joe. What's that, sir? He said, you're not going to make that trip. Oh, yeah. No, I said, you got to stay and get all this equipment ready for general inspection. I just hit my hand behind Pap. Oh, I know, I'm sure going to miss that, sir. But I just tickled to death,
How bad did those guys look that had to go on that 60-mile hump?
Well, I tell you, they come in 2 weeks. Hut, hut, hut. They had a sound all big like to really, boy, they was just plumb give out. I said, how do you boys eat? So they had to drop us some food.
Oh boy, they give you some. Did they give you some dirty looks when they got back to camp?
Yeah, they get sea rations and stuff. Yeah.
Your lieutenant seemed like he had some preferential treatment towards you. Did you guys?
Well, he was Spanish. He's Mexican, but he was one of the nicest guy. He made something out of himself. He was Spanish, but he was a good guy.
Yeah.
And the captain, the head of the whole thing, was good. I grew me a little mustache. I went up and reported him, and the big guy was there, the colonel, and I saluted him, and the colonel said, Captain, you let your man grow facial hair. He had a mustache. He said, anything good for captain, sir, is good for my men.
He stood up for y'all.
We got by with that. Now it came back when the general, big boy come, I drove the Jeep. And all during my time, I always dressed neat, shoes shine and everything. And if you pick for guard duty in basic or anything, well, you didn't have to go on guard. You say you had to get the guard changed all the time, all in the dry and stuff. If it rained, sleet, whatever it was, you had to go on guard duty. Always dressed and I always win that thing. I was the one to give them the post, to go out and 2 hours at a time, I believe it was, and then they come with chains, to take somebody out. But
being in Panama, you guys probably had to deal with a lot of the things in the jungle, animals and insects, right?
Yeah, I had a good experience. I had a sand fly attacked to me one night, right in here. I thought it was a pimple. And can you still see that scar?
How big was that whenever
Well,
it bit you?
I didn't know what it was, so I went to take a shower that one night, and boy, it just opened up. You know how a volcano looks, That's the way that little thing looked on my arm. And so I went sick call next morning. And that little lieutenant, Dr. Lieutenant, just out of state down there, doing his duty, and he said, oh, I seen 5 sitting nothing to worry about, and I stuck my arm out and said, yeah, but whose arm is it? Well, he said, I think what it is, said, Colonel so-and-so is a doctor, he's a doctor, he's an expert on these tropical disease, so I went to him. He looked at it and he said, well, I think I know what it is, we'll do a biopsy, so he cut up here. It was the node system, and it localized here. And he said, he looked at it, I don't hours or whatever it was, said that's what it is, said this is Thursday, said I'm going to send you to the hospital, you rest up, and said Monday we'll start you on a series of shots, give you 7 shots, and said then we're going to rest you. So 7 shots, and I couldn't hardly get out of bed. It affected every joint in my body. And he examined me. He said, "Well, we can't do it. We've got to give you 2 weeks to get over this. Then we'll start to 7 more." We got 5 in me, and I couldn't get out of bed. I just did. He said, "We got to quit this," but it did cure it with a.
The leishmania?
Yeah, I got enough in me with it. So I asked him. I said, "What about these native Panamanians?" He said, "You see them big knots don't look about like a half an egg?" He said, "That's it." He said, "It takes 7 years to make its life cycle through the body."
Golly.
Yeah. And so, and another thing, I was out in the jungle with a mosquito net on me, and I woke one morning bloody. I mean, blood all over me. And vampire bat had got a hold of me, and blood all over me. And I said, "Well, I want to know, as they carry rabies?" "Oh no, they don't carry rabies. For we don't rabies here." Well, he didn't know what he was talking about. When I came back to university and taking medical entomology and veterinary entomology, it did have in Central and South America, bats did carry rabies.
These are the
Vampire
bats?
Yeah.
And now they had a mesh around your tent, right?
Yeah, I
That
had
would
a
keep 'em
net
up
on a cot.
on your
I
cot?
had a cot, and a cover on it. What I did sleeping up there, and that thing anesthetize you before they start sucking blood. That's funny, you don't know that's going on. It anesthetize it, and then I don't know what the procedure is.
Yeah. Now, how long did you say that you were hospitalized when you had that leishmania?
35 days.
35 days?
They kept me extra after to get everything, check my heart, and I had to go back every month to check my heart out, make sure I didn't have any side effects from it.
Yeah.
But
How many years were you in Panama?
15 months.
15 months?
I came in one day and they said, "Get your bag ready, you're shipping out tomorrow." So I had to go to the Air Force Base, which was halfway between Atlantic and Pacific side. Panama City is on the Pacific side. I was over on Coulon, Camp Davis, and couldn't go out the next day. They had a tropical storm in the Gulf, so had to wait. We got on this old Air Force plane and didn't have any seats, just all the way around fuselage benches, Had pregnant women on it and all the stuff out in the middle. And boy, we hit the air currents, Still some bad weather. And that thing, whoo, whoo. As the pilot said, "How far are we going down? 15, 20 feet?" Oh, he said about 200 or 300 feet at a time. And boy, I felt so sorry for those pregnant women on there.
When you were in Panama, what did you all do for fun? Did you have any sports you played there?
Oh, we could play bowling. We had one afternoon we had what they call team sports, over the net volleyball and this sort of stuff. But Sergeant Haney took a like to me and he said, "No, you're going to go play golf with me today."
Where'd you all play?
Had a golf course there.
On the base?
On base, yeah.
Was it mainly just for officers?
Oh, it's good. It's just 9 points.
Was it mainly for officers, though?
Mainly all, but they could take yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, he just sergeant, so anybody play it.
Now, were you much of a golfer?
He always picked me to go with him. Well, what we do, we go around play 9 holes, and he'd go in there and get a beer, Then we play 9 holes again, and so.
How was the Panamanian beer?
We didn't do. We used slits.
Oh yeah.
10 cents a can.
Were you a pretty good golfer by the end of it?
No. I was a slicer. I was left-handed, a left-handed golfer. You don't see many. They're slicers,
Well, you were there for entertainment then.
I was just there for entertainment. He was from Dallas, Texas. Grew up in orphanages down there.
Yeah.
He was a nice guy. But now, they took me all out. They was having people sending stuff in to get washed, his sheets and stuff, beddings and stuff. They wouldn't come back with anything. And that said, we're not getting our stuff back. I'm seeing your job. I said, what's that, sir? And he said, you're going to be in charge why we're not getting our stuff back. Well, I said, I don't know much about it. I know what a sheet looked like. So I took that job, and I tell you, when they were sending them down to Panama, some of that stuff, and they come pick it up. Now I say, what, folks? I'm sending 100. So much usually. I'm sending 200 sheets in today. I want 200 back. Period.
Did you count them?
Yeah, I had to count them. I said, now you can take my account, you can sit here and count them, but I want 200 back. And if you tear up one, that's your loss. And I said, I want the pillowcases, I want so many back, you know, just one for each. You didn't sleep with anybody, you know, that I knew of.
What was your ending rank whenever you actually
corporal.
Corporal?
Yeah.
As a corporal, were you in charge of any ceremonies or parades?
I was the lead man in parade.
Yeah.
I carried the American flag.
Where was that at?
There in Panama.
Was that parade whenever you all were leaving Panama?
The big general and colonels, all the big officers would come every so often and do that. Yeah.
Yeah. So you were part of the ceremony, for all the ceremonies, you were flag bearer?
Yeah. I carried the American flag, and then we had one for our company, and you know, this different day, but the American flag was out front, all by itself. But and then you had to do that whenever like that, and then when you passed the reviewer, you put it back like this, you know.
Yeah.
But
any other stories you can think about from your time in Panama?
well, Panama, let's see. Well, I told you about the.
What was the food like there?
I tell you what, we had good cooks. You can't believe, because in basic trainings they weren't very good, you know.
No.
But there, you know, it's a sea ration. But them cooks, they would save a lot of this cheese and meats and stuff. They put the sea rations out, you know. But they always had that good, best cheese you've ever tasted. All good ham and stuff, all that good stuff.
Did they ever take any of the local produce and add that to what you were doing?
Oh yeah, you just had all the fruit, bananas. I tell you, when we going to the jungle, across the canal, they had these fruit stands a long time. We had this deuce and a half, about 12 people back there, and we stopped one of them fruit stands and put a menu on it, and they'd have stalks of banana out there. Now I said, now boys, see that overripe here now. Let me handle that. I'm gonna. How much that stalk? I looked at green stalks rolled up pretty green. I said, well, how much that? And they said, $3. And I said, oh yeah, well I don't know. Well, I said, well, that overripe and that was $1. Oh, I said, that's too high. That's too high. Said fast then. No, I'm gonna get some. Half dollar. Give you a quarter. Take it.
They were going to give it to you regardless.
Yeah, I knew just about ready to go. Yeah, I knew we all had to eat them that day too, so we ate them just throw the pill out. You know?
What was your favorite part about being a soldier?
Well, I guess the most exciting thing, look forward to discharge.
Discharge.
I tried to be the best there was. I didn't want to go to brig or anything. I treated it as a job that had to be done because I love the good old USA. And I knew what my brother sacrificed, two of them. One lost his life and one was injured severely, you know.
Is there anything else you want to talk to us about war or?
No, I think we could quit on that, you know.
Okay.
I'll say this terrible thing.
I agree with you. Now while you were in Panama, Hayden had passed at that point, and your older brothers were they working outside of the home?
Oh yeah, oldest brother he retired after almost 40 years Bell Telephone. He started out at Fort Smith, and he finished up here at Fayetteville. He did all the phone work, everything for the university.
Well, I'm saying whenever you were in Panama, you were a major part of your household. You ran the farm and all
Yeah.
that, and so you left a younger brother and your mom at home.
Well, Daddy was back then, and Tom was in Korea.
Yeah.
He was in the Air Force. His job was to load bombs up.
Okay.
Yeah, he was way back from the 48 parallel line. He didn't want to be on that. That's where so many soldiers got frostbite up there, boy. They still suffer from that.
You're now you got a GI Bill while you were in Panama.
Yeah.
What did you spend all the money in Panama, or what did you do with that? Did you save the money? Did you spend it in Panama? What did you do?
A corporal paid $140 a month. I sent about $70 at home. When I was PFC, I sent 50 home. And Mama had saved all that for me.
So she kept all that. What did she saved it, but what did you end up using that money for when you got back
I
home?
bought a car.
Bought a car?
I had to have, well, I had scattered cotton for the farmers over 2 summers in a row, and I saved all that, you know. And see, I worked at the university. I had 3 jobs working at the university as an undergraduate. Some of them started at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Well, that kind of gets us out of Panama and into your college years. So after Panama, you went to the university, correct?
Well, when I got Panama, I was Agricultural Extension Service as assistant agent and associate agent at Russellville.
Okay.
And that's when they called me from the university, wanted to know if I was be interested in getting a master's in medical and veterinary entomology. And Dr. Lancaster had just came back from Cornell. I didn't know him as an undergraduate. I knew his name because I helped some of the do research, line stuff up out in the counties. Some of these boys doing research, but he's the only professor doing this.
Well, before we get into your work after the Korean War, before that, whenever you were in college, you went to Tech for 2 years.
Yes.
And after that, you were at the university for 2 more years, right?
And then scattered cotton for farmers over there.
How did you know that you wanted to get into entomology? What drove that for you?
Well, I had the idea. That job was a research assistant with more than I was making at Russellville. And I thought, well, I didn't like that as too well. I said, this is a good chance for me to get out of here and get a master's. So I took that. And then I published several papers while I was doing that, And,
While you were an RA?
Yeah, I was there 35 years. Well, with Shell, I was working with Shell, two products for Shell Chemical Company. It was SD, Shell Development. And I tell you what the numbers that was, 75, 76, and SD 75, 80, 77. One was Ray Bomb, one was Vapona. And that, believe it or not, those 2 products are still on the market today. And they came down there and offered me a job. It was good money. I know it was good money. And I said, what are you going to do with me? He said, we'll see you in New York. I said, New York? Yeah. He said, well, actually, you live out West Plains, New York, and you ride. I said, well, how do I get in New York to the main office? And he said, subway. How long? An hour and 15 minutes, back. She was 3 or 4 months old, and I said, huh. He said, now the job's yours. Well, in between, go back, Doc and them told me, Joe, he said, I've talked to head of the department. If you're interested in, see, they knew I've been offered some good job with chemical companies. That Shell wasn't the only one. And said, Dr. Lincoln said, we'll make a special job of Joe if you can get him. And that would be a research specialist. And so now the boys sitting in Shell, sitting in my office there in the research lab, and he said, now Joe, it's the job yours. We haven't got to pay, but said, it's going to be, you're going to be surprised how good pay it's going to be. And I said, you guys like to have any coffee? And Miss German, my technician, and she was old enough to be my mama. I said, this gentleman would like to have some coffee. He said, come see what's the one in it, you know. So I walked in Doc's office. I said, Joe, we created that job special for you now. I said, that's all I want to hear. I'm fixed to turn that New York job down, and I went in and turned it down.
And boy, what a different direction of life that would have been if you'd been in New York.
Well, I knew, there's two things. I knew if I got a PhD, I could never get back here at that, I'd probably have to go. And I knew those chemical company people go, they wine and dine you, you know, they come in and take you out for lunch, and you know, they'd be probably wanting to hit a drink, you know, and two, you know. I knew a good friend quit the university, went with them, and committed suicide after 2 or 3 years, you know. But
well, and that job was not the only thing you turned down. I remember you told me a story of when you were going to school, you turned down a prospect of going and playing ball, right?
What now?
Playing baseball?
Yes. The guy came to my house.
How old were you when this was happening?
Just out of high school.
Yeah.
And this guy came and said, I want to sign your son pro baseball contract. Now, I was so dumb, I didn't find out about this after she passed away and my sister told me the story. So I have to repeat what she said. Mama said, no, he's not going to play any old baseball. Said he's going to go to college. And so that's where I went. And but she, I know where it would be. It was for Cleto Mud Hens at Cleto, Ohio, and they was a farm club of Cincinnati Reds.
Yeah.
So that's where I started. But and my sister told me that after Mama died. I did. How that story missed me, I don't know.
Do you think you were good enough to play for the Reds eventually? You think you could have played?
Well,
for
you
them?
know, that's a long shot. I think Mama made the right decision.
Yeah.
I think.
So you think that going to school was the best path for you?
Oh yeah, yeah. You know, boy, getting on the bus back then, there wasn't any all busing. You know, about then, there wasn't no flying or nothing like that. And the buses, you know, was terrible. You know.
Yeah. Now, whenever you were in school, did you stay on campus? Did you live at home? How did you?
We stayed on campus. Met Theo Watson room together. That was Jenna, half uncle.
Theo Watson was Jenna's half uncle.
Yeah, we was best of buddies.
How long did you guys room together?
Huh?
How long did you all were you a roommate together?
We 2 years at the university, and I roomed with somebody else at Tech. Actually, his name was Jay Moore. He was a big geneticist for the University of Arkansas. He did one that was developed blackberries and strawberries and stuff. And
now Theo, if you were roommates with him for 2 years and you were pretty close, did you guys?
Oh yeah.
Did you guys have any crazy antics or crazy things you did?
Well, not really.
Work.
What did you now? You worked while you were in school, right?
Yes, I had 3 jobs. First job was we get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, go out to the dairy farm and pick up those 10-gallon milk can, put them in a station wagon, van, and take back and dump in a pasteurizer. Then we go have breakfast. We go to class. And then after class and labs, we always had labs in our business, but we started delivering milk, cheese, ice cream, and butter to dormitories and stuff. And the women working there, they felt sorry for us. They'd always have pie and cookies to feed us, you know. And then at 3 nights a week, we headed down to the bowling alley.
What you were a bowler?
Well, I worked in the pits, reset the pins.
So they didn't have automatic pin resets. You were
No. And those sorority boys come in and ask drunk, and they almost didn't have time to get out of the pen before they want to throw the ball down through there, you know. And
you said there was a third job.
huh?
You did dairy. You did bowling. What was the third?
Oh, see, I can't think of that now.
You still hunted at that point, right? Trapped? You still trapped furs?
Well, no, not after high school. We quit that
Okay.
for yeah. But Theo and I, we'd go fishing, cook a lot of our meals, you know, and we a lot of fried chicken and stuff, and the fish. We'd go after workers, stuff. But right on the last. Well, he was going to California to get a PhD in cotton insects, and so our time departed from there, you know.
I remember a story about snipe hunting. You want to go into that?
Yeah, we took an old boy on snipe hunting, and
What's snipe hunting?
well, supposed to be birds out there with no bird. There's a man stationed out there, and I will not tell this. It says there's a woman out there now, boy. You'd be interested to tell this old boy. He's really interested. We've always picked out what's smarty like, you know, and got him out there, and this guy hiding out there. We take him out with the green bars, if you know what that is, boy. We out there. We told him, I said, you go ahead, we'll kind of stay behind you here. He just started walking up there. I said, well, I think it's that house over there, hollered at. And he got up there, there's that guy seeing my wife, you know. And boy, he took off. We just saw him as we got back to the dormitory. He was scratched up. We never did tell him anything different. That's the meanest thing we did.
Well, that happens sometimes in college. Something I learned today is that you were you did a little bit of track and field, right?
Well, I wasn't too good at track other than high jump. I could high jump almost 6 feet.
Did you high jump in high school?
We didn't have track. We just had a thing out there. We just practiced jumping up. Kind of helped on basketball, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they offered you.
You couldn't dunk it then. You couldn't touch the rim back in our days.
No. As a high jumper, did they offer you a position as a high jumper in college?
No, I tried to tell them I'd high jump, and they said, well, we got to run you on. I said, no, I can't run. I said, I'm a loser at that, but I will. So they wouldn't do that for me. I was going to do it free. No scholarship or nothing else.
Yeah.
And poor Theo, my buddy, he tried, boy, he just couldn't hardly make it around that track. That last thing, I said, oh, I'm on Theo, make it, boy. Yeah, it was fun, you know.
Now in college, you weren't in any fraternities, but were you in any other groups?
No, I belonged to the Agri Club, you know.
Was that a FFA?
Well, it was just all the kids majoring in agriculture and home ec. We had a club together. Girls were majoring in home economics, us in agriculture. We had about 50, 60 in our club, you know. Tech wasn't about 2,000 people, and all of them was veterans. World War II veterans still going to school.
What was your role in the Agri Club? What did you do in the club?
Set.
Yeah.
Well, we now got interested in Agri Club, and take it back to high school. We had the first Agri, teaching Agri in Mount Berkeley High School in 1949, and I was elected president of our club.
Now, we were talking about in your college years, I think we left off on a dance that you went to.
On what?
A dance in college.
Oh, we just always, we didn't have any cars at that time, you know. We'd walk down at Fayetteville Square, down to the American Legion hut, and there's always some girls around Huntsville come over to dance. So we get to dance for them. That's all it amounts to, you know. We had one guy named Pritchett. Boy, he loved to dance, you know. And he grew up in Charleston, Arkansas. He worked in a creamery, so I was real close with him.
What was the dance of the time?
Oh, just round dancing, you know, just ballroom dancing. No, I don't know what ballroom dancing, but you made the bunny hop. You line up in a big line, you know, and you bunny hop, hop, you know, maybe about 20 in a row, you know. They might play that 2 or 3 times during the night.
That was popular, huh?
Then we walked back to campus, you know.
Yeah.
None of us had cars.
What's the first restaurant you ever remember eating in?
Up there.
During your college years?
Well, at drive-in, you know, when you had cars there, Wheeler Drive in on Dixon Street, boy, that was part of the wagon wheel out on School Street, way out towards, south on the old 71 highway. There wasn't a whole lot of restaurants back now. I'll tell you, when I was a student there, I remember, I don't know whether, when I came back, I think it was out there, Sonic was out there on 71B. And, they disappeared, and then they made a run to come back several years ago, But there was a Sonic out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you ever remember any of your professors at the university?
Yeah, Dr. Lancaster.
Yeah.
He's one of the nicest guy I ever associated. Very much of a Christian man. Let me tell you about what he did. A kid came in and come up there, wanted to get a master's. He went to head of the department. He looked at his transcript from Arkansas Tech. He said, looking at this, I don't think you're capable of getting a degree in entomology. So some way he found our lab out there. He knocked on the lab, and I was the first one to meet him. And he introduced him. I introduced him. He said, "Is Dr. Lancaster?" I said, "Yeah, he's in his office. I'll take you in there." And so I took him in his office, and I was working on some stuff out on the main part of the lab, getting ready for an experiment. And I heard him talking, and Doc looked at his transcript, and he said, "Well, young man," I said, "looking at this, I think you could be able to do it." He said, "If you think you can, if you got hope you can, and if you have faith you can, you love what you're doing, you can make it." And I said, "Well, he's preaching out of the Bible." And so he got talking, and he said, "Now, I've got one assistantship left." Said, "You meet me in the morning, 8 o'clock, up the first floor Agri building." And said, "We'll get you on the assistantship." He said, "Doc, I don't have any money." He said, "Did I mention any money?" "No, sir." So he went up there, and you know what he did? He paid his whole tuition for one semester. He told him, said, "Now, I want you to where he lived." He said, "I want you to show up my place Saturday morning at 8 o'clock. Said, you got 10 acres, I need some weeds cut." He said, "I went out there and chopped weeds all day long." Said, he walked out there about 5 o'clock and said, "Here's your check." "Check, what's that for?" And he said, "Well, you're going to have a little money to eat on until you get, I'm trying to get that assistantship to you in a week or two." And that's the kind of guy he was.
Not many professors would ever do that for their students.
None, I tell you what. Now, he was rigid. Now, he had one student, Jim Hunter. Jim just retired this year from Merck. Merck had research for farm Springdale. And Doc came down where I had the other building where I was working on a lot of the tick cultures and stuff. And we had some guinea pigs and this sort of thing. Doc came in there and said, "Joe, I think go ahead and get rid of Jim." And right next door was a thing where a student could make things for the research. And there wasn't much of a wall to it. Jim, I guess, could hear us. And I said, "What's your problem with him?" "Well," said, "my thing is be here at 8 o'clock. He said, "We may not have nothing to do right then, but said, if we do, we need him." And I said, "Can you give me 2 weeks with him?" He said, "Yeah, I can give you what you want." So, but he left, and Jim ran, "What am I going to do? What am I going to do?" I said, "How much you hear?" He said, "I think I heard everything." "All right," I said, "Jim. Now I've got you 2 weeks. I don't want you there at 8 o'clock. I want you 10 or 15 minutes before 8. I want you in that lab before he gets here. I want you ready to show something, that you're interested in doing something. You promise that?" "I'll do anything." Well, he did, and then he made a good thing. He went ahead and got a PhD and worked with Merck, about 34 years, he told me.
What an impact.
Yeah.
2 weeks and you changed a man's life.
Yeah. Well, he put bees out on me he's a bee man too. He loved bees. Boy, he was so tight that he had to tell you, he had some bologna in there one day, a pound of bologna sliced, He came in my office and said, "Well, somebody getting in my bologna in there." I said, "Jim, I'm not getting any bologna." "Well, somebody is." I said, "Well, somebody got a piece." I said, "A piece? Only a piece?" Yeah. I said, Joe, I said, Jim, that's not nothing to get excited about. I said, now if you're afraid of that, you get you a cooler, and you bring some ice in it, and you just carry it with you wherever you want to go. I can't keep anybody getting in that ice box, you know. but on that honey deal, when you set your beehive out on a man's premises, they usually the thing you give them a few quarts of honey. Jim would sell every bit of that. Boy, he made honey. He'd sell, I bet he had 100, 200 quarts. He got down to the last 5 or 6, he finally brought me 2 quarts. But he was a nice guy.
How much did it cost you to go to school back then?
Do what?
How much did you have to pay, you think, to go to college?
Well, you know, mine was all paid for. I was on assistantship.
For your master's?
Yeah. I was making $6,000 something. They give me a pay if the professors got a pay. I was the only full-time with a master's degree after they offered me that full-time job. But I'm telling you, I had 20-something referee paper that got through your boss, your department head, and they send it all to the public, or they go through it. And I've never had one rejected. And me and Doc, we had about 40 something together. And I had somewhere I was third on, some even fourth on it. So
yeah, that's something.
I figured I had to do something with like that last degree. But when I developed a technique to desensitize flies and other things with plain light instead of using CO2 and chilling them in a refrigerator.
Whenever you first got into university and you're choosing your career path, what got you into insects? Did you have a fascination with bugs as a kid?
I loved animals.
Yeah.
And that's what got interested in me.
So you got into bugs because you had an interest in animals.
Yeah.
Were you interested in protecting the animals against insects?
Yeah. We worked a lot of tick. Now, of course, tick was a human deal, you know, disease. We was doing work in a young dairy farmer up in Benton County, and he came out using some of his heifers to work with, I believe, lice at that time. And he said he thought he was going to lose his 6-year-old son. And Doc began to question about it, you know. So, well, he said, I've had him to all the doctors, and they can't find anything wrong with him. And Dr. Connie said, I see you got a camper. Do you camp? He said, oh, yeah, if I get my daddy milk the cows on weekend, we'd camp some. He said, you park outside in the sun, or you? Oh, no, we go to the woods. Doc said, I think what you tell me, your son's got tick fever. And sure enough, that's what he had. Said, you get through here, I don't care whether you dress or not. Said, you get a blood test. I think that's what you're, sure enough, that's what it was. We went back 2 weeks to see what kind of results we had obtained on those heifers. And sure enough, that's what he had. And the guy was all smiles.
I remember when I was a little boy, probably like 7 or 8, I got a gift from you. I got about 5 or 6 big boxes full of your old insect collections. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
How long did it take for you to collect all of those?
Huh?
How long did it take for you to collect all those insects?
Oh, years.
Yeah.
Yeah. But see, now I graded all in case John was teaching that course, undergraduate thing, and I doing all the grading of that. And I know one time Doc coming in his last lecture for finals, and you met Don Ward.
Oh yeah.
Well, Don was in that class, and he came in, and Don said, George Davis said, George's been sleeping over here ever since he come in here. Said, you want to wake him up? Said, no. He said, I don't know if he's out with the girl all night. He's studying for finals. Just let him sleep. He may need it. So Don didn't know I was back there doing that. And Doc came back after. That's how Joe's how's the collection. I said, Doc, some of them excellent, some of them not so good. And he said, well, that's just a part of the course, you know. But I said, I know she didn't wake George up. Nah, he says, I didn't know anything, just let him sleep.
Let him
She
sleep.
said, well, George and Don both had A's in the course, so Doc wasn't worried about those two.
Yeah. What was your, now you studied flies, correct?
What now?
Flies?
Well, horn flies probably because that's more prevalent.
Yeah.
And we did horse flies, stable flies, and face flies. Guy called me one Sunday morning and said, I've got hundreds of flies on my cattle, live down by the Wheeler. And he said, you come here and look. And I went down and I said, say, you got face flies. I said, I've never seen anything like this. I said, they came in from Europe in 1960s. It's taken them that long to get here, but I didn't see this many. You couldn't believe how many there were. And that's, we did a lot of work on face flies.
Yeah.
They call it pink eye. Irritate. They don't suck blood, they just irritate the eyes. Okay.
Well, so tell me about, I've kind of got the idea of what you did in college. When did you end up meeting Granny after you graduated?
Well, after I got that job in Russellville, we were doing between Yale County and Pope County, we were doing a joint thing on feeder calf sale. And the county agent said, I got a blonde-headed girl secretary over there you need to meet, Joe. So I don't have a way, but they had the county fair, so I went and met her that day. We got up and rode the Ferris wheel. Went around, the old boy stopped it, I said, here's a quarter, do it, take me another ride. So we went around and I took her home. She only lived about 2 or 3 blocks from the fairground.
Was she pretty talkative that night?
No, not too talkative. She's pretty quiet.
So you did the talking?
I did the talking. And I took her, she was staying on Monday night, Tuesday night, Thursday night, Friday night as this older couple. Glenn, her daddy would bring her only about 8 miles from where her daddy lived, and she'd stay there, and then he'd pick her up on Friday to go back home, And I started, phone that time, I had to go get a payphone to call her, but I always called her, tried to catch her. We made a thing. I said, I'll try to call you. You're going to call, be noon hour. I said, what time? I said, I'll try to do about 12:30. And that way I can get you at your office. And that's where we made dates and stuff.
What did you think about her on that Ferris wheel that night?
I liked her.
Yeah?
Well, the thing about it, I knew her uncle, we was so, it was kind of funny. She met a big tall guy going down for graduation, coming down through with that cap on, the gown, and that was me. It's funny, that's 4 years between,
She had met you by chance from her uncle?
No. Didn't know nothing
Granny
about
was still in high school.
So how did you meet her 4 years prior?
She was just out of high school and had gone to Little Rock to a job and then came back to Dan for a job, and that job opened up. She was head with the main secretary over there. And that's where I met her, just, and come find out who she was. Her mother was Theo's half-sister.
But Granny had come to the U of A graduation.
Yeah,
for
graduation.
For Theo, her
to see
uncle.
Theo graduate, yeah.
And she remembered seeing
A big tall
guy
Yeah.
there, but didn't get to meet him.
Now that was in '53, and I didn't see her till about '57. No, '56.
That's something.
And how they transferred me and got that job over at Russellville real quick. And whenever I left there, I think she had doubts whether what our relationship was going to be.
Because of the distance?
Huh?
Because of distance?
Yeah, distance. But I said, don't worry, we'll keep in contact,
What did her dad think about you at that point?
Well, his brothers asked, and sister asked about me and said, well, he seemed like a really nice guy. So
yeah,
that's about all I know about that.
Were you nervous to
Well, her mother
meet
fell
her?
out a little old for her.
She said what?
Old for her.
Oh, 4.
Oh, age.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Age.
4, yeah.
It was about 7, 8 years different, I don't wish she had dated too much, in high school. I had to date a whole lot. I was trying to get an education, make something out of myself. I didn't have time,
Yeah.
I kind of looked at girls every now and then, but, but I didn't. I was trying to get an education. It was, I didn't want to take any of my money from my Hayden left $10,000. He wanted that to be used for me, Tom and myself, my younger brother, for college education. Neither one of us used that money because Mom and Daddy needed it worse than we did. Tom got his full pay because he came after veterans. He got veteran, but I had a job. I only got enough to pay my book.
Yeah.
But I didn't ever need it.
How long between the time that you saw Granny on that Ferris wheel to when you proposed to her? How long did you date Granny?
Well, let's see. I proposed to her that first year, and we got married in August. Yeah. I used to tell this story, which isn't true. We sat on the couch that night, and I proposed to her. And her mother and daddy's already asleep. We didn't tell them till the next morning. But I used to tell this story, and I said, yeah, I proposed, and she said, now I got to think about it. I said, don't wait till I'm my back. She said, I do. But she didn't do that, and I did that.
Yeah. Before you proposed to her,
well,
where did you go on
back,
dates?
Yeah, I came back and told my boss, I said, well, Doc, I proposed to the lady, and we set the date for August 15th. And I said, I want to know if I can get a week off. Boy, he said, we'd be winding down some of our tests and going to be pretty busy. No, he said, I don't think you get a week, but I'll give you 2. So
he was a good boss.
Yeah, very. You can't believe what I thought of that guy.
Now, you guys had a lot of distance between you all before you proposed. Where would you guys go on dates with the distance?
Well, we'd go out. There's a movie there at Danville, and then there's one at Boonville there. Then all the time we just sit on the front porch, swing, and talk,
There was a porch swing there?
Restaurants. Drive in, we might drive down and get something, But it was just...
Do you remember any of the movies you would watch with Granny?
Yeah, King and I.
King and I.
Sorry, but hey, it was so... We went to Boonville to see that, and Theo was here. He was back from California, and he picked up a friend of hers. Boy, they get kind of wild that back seat, I thought, back there.
They didn't remember much of that movie, did they?
Yeah. You ever see that show?
No.
You remember who it was? Well, I forget that. Boy, that was sorry.
Well, tell me about, you said that you proposed to her on the couch, but that really wasn't true. So what was the true story of how you proposed to Granny?
About telling her about, I think about it, and I said, don't take too long, I might back out. She said, I do, but I just made that up, not with her, but tell that story later after we got married.
Yeah.
But she still didn't like that.
Where did you guys get married?
In her house.
Who was there?
All right. The preacher, of course. They passed little flowers out. I didn't think I'd have it. Somebody took part of their flower and gave him one to pin on. But, okay. Her mother and daddy, of course, and Robert. Her 2 aunts, Zona and Marybelle. And Bill Watson. She was the brother to Bill Watson, brother Theo Watson. And I was his best man later on. But then that was it. My mother and Tom and Alma and Ray came down, my sister and Ray, that was it.
Did you have a big cake?
Yeah. And they let Tara out of my car.
The air out of your tires?
Had to put a spare on to get over to Dardanelle, right down the middle of a parade. Had a flat. Had to be a filling station down 105 degree temperature. And I walked down there and said, I got a flat up there. Yeah, if you take it off and bring it down here. So I took it off and rolled it down there, rolled it back, and we took off to Jasper, Arkansas, where we spent the first night. And got a room, and I don't know why we did this. You had to pay $1 for television. We didn't use it. Yeah. So we there next morning we went up, had breakfast at that good cafe up there. Boy, I tell you, and every time we went to her class reunion, they met over Mountain View. We always went early and always went by that and had a breakfast at that cafe for years and years after that. One of the best breakfasts, you know. It's the second oldest breakfast in Arkansas.
Yeah.
One down to Oark is the first, and the oldest. But
After you guys got married, where did you live?
where we go,
Where'd you live? Yeah.
well, we had an apartment. I had one apartment, didn't like it much, and this guy that getting his master's Tugwell, we worked together, not putting his thesis together, and put mine in the old gray hall where the library is now, and we what was I just talking about?
Where you live first?
Oh, I turned that down, and we got a new apartment basement. He found that, and I went down, told that guy I put $50 down on that. I told him she'd backed out. He didn't offer to give me any money back, but that's all right. But I got that brand new one, and
Was that the one by the library?
huh?
Is that the one by the library?
No, it's down on School Street. One.
Okay.
Yeah, but they didn't get in real early. They're just finishing up. So we went back to my folks, till they got that and came back, and they were ready to go. Miss Vanderslice. We got that for, I think, $40, and we got television with extra $5. She said she had to go up. Everything was furnished, you know. So we lived there till we found this place out here. This old house here had been remodeled, and we lived there. Donna was crying one night, and she bed by me, and I was shaking it, and I said, "Well, then you shake that bed. I've got her in my arms," you know. And but I found this place out here, you know.
How long did you live in that first house before you moved here?
Yeah, the lady had just came remodeled. Her husband, he had built a barn out here, not the one here now, and he fell on and aggravated cancer, died. And I've been looking 6 months for a thing, and this Duggar, the father just dug her down here, and his grandfather was in real estate business, and I had this couple working the rat room over there, knew them, you know, and I got hooked up with them. He brought me out of this place, and I went back and told they wanted, I believe it was $20,000 for it, and I got them down to $2,000, I believe it was, and the old boy back up. The old boy that looked at it was a big shop with Ross and Purina chicken business up here in Springdale. He tried to jew her down to $18,000. After I saw it and I knew the potential, well, I had her give a few things, you know, in the house. She agreed to do that, so I wound up $20,000, and I got that. And on Tuesday we made the deal on Friday, and everything, got all that done, and signed the papers on Monday, and borrowed the money from the bank. We had so much to put down, and the old boy from Purina come by and said, "Well, I decided to buy that farm." She said, "I got so much fun." I'll tell him, said, "No, you won't either." Said, "Young couple just bought that Friday." So
nice.
She was really, you know.
She wanted it to go to you anyway.
Huh?
She probably wanted it to go to you anyway.
Yeah. So we bought that, but it was, they had remodeled a little bit, but it got cold in the wintertime, you know.
Had you always intended on making this into a farm?
Do what?
You always intended on making this into a farm?
Yes. When I me taking that job at university, I said, "Now I'm going to tell you folks, The only way I'm going to take this, I'm going to go out and find me a place to live out in the country, and I may have a few cattle. And Dr. Lincoln said, Joe, I don't care whether you play golf, you fish, or hunt, as long as you do your job. And I said, that's all I want to hear. Doc, adios. Thank you. And
what did Granny think about you moving out here and starting a farm?
She was 110% for it.
Yeah.
See, she grew up on a farm. She knew what it was. I knew it was a lot of work to be. Daddy came up here and told Tom, my younger brother, said, "Has that boy lost his mind?" And the first year I was here, the guy offered me a $10,000 profit. First year I was out here, offered me $30,000.
Turned it down.
Yep, I said, no, this is home.
Knowing that you were going to be working full time for Lancaster and having the farm,
Yeah.
did that put a lot of stress on Granny to run the farm?
No, Granny knew what she was doing. She knew what farm work.
Yeah.
Anything out of that cotton stuff over in eastern Arkansas, she didn't like it over there.
She did cotton.
And her mother didn't like it either, so they moved the farm back to Plainview down south of Russellville, where you had cattle and chickens,
When you first had this farm, what did you raise first?
Cattle.
All cattle?
I bought some cattle. First I bought 5 head. 2 of them had calves. And the first 5 came out of that truck. I got an old boy haul them out here for me. Just said, is that what you spent? We saved enough money to buy some cattle. She said, is that what you bought them money for? And I said, well, you think they look bad ways to run them 2, got them calves on them. She kind of shook her head. Well, I paid $175 a head, for them at that time. When I sold the calves, they had me $190. So I had to clear the cows out the first 6, 7 months. The cows for free. And I kept buying, and buy a bill herd, save stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We raised baby calves one time. We'd buy these dairy calves, Angus-looking calves, and did that, get extra money,
Now, whenever you were, newlywed, you just had Donna. Where would you and Granny go? Like, where would you spend the most of your time together for couple time, like on a date?
You mean after I had her?
Yeah. Did you guys spend any time together as a couple?
I guess the whole house.
The whole house. The whole house is a date. So, this is your favorite place to be. Was the home?
Let me tell you, we was going to a little church, Adventist church there on School Street, and we had 12 couples there. We got real acquainted with young couples, but we came out. The neighbor that run a little grocery store down here, gas station. He came up and visited. Went to the little Harmon church down there, invited us to go. Well, first Sunday we didn't go to church because, boy, it was raining everything. We moved in on Friday and Saturday. And there's one of them folds that had 8 people on the party line. The phone rang, and I'd answer and said, no, this is not so-and-so. Well, I've been trying to get them. I said, well, it's raining. I didn't know it was on a party line, And ours was 2 shorts and 2 long range, And finally I woke up what was going on. But second thing, we went to a little church down. Everybody's so nice and friendly. We made it at home for 60-some years, and I'm still going.
Harmon United Methodist?
Yeah.
Why have you been going there for so long?
We love the people.
Yeah.
Mostly farmers. They were so nice to us and took Don and them in just like everything about us. And could they cook?
Yeah.
Yeah. Chris, and I still, I'll tell this, I won't. Vicky and Jack Thompson, Daddy, had 2 of the finest mama and daddy they ever had. These pillars of this church down here. And when they found out passing away, they both live in Dallas. For Tuesday morning, they found out. Visitation that night, you thinking? They got in a car, made it here for visitation, stayed the next day for the funeral. Now that's some friends. We taught them in Sunday school down here.
Yeah, that's family.
Yeah, they have 2 kids.
Name some of the original people that you remember from Harmon.
Well, my favorite had to be Arch and Chris Thompson. And you go from there, Nolan and Sue McCamey, and Fred, and let me tell you about Nolan. One time they come in, and we had a preacher. He prayed the first preacher that we attended, Brother Ace. Nolan sitting on the back row, and she said, "Nolan, I left the chicken in the oven." He lived about a quarter mile or so. He heaped out the front door, went down, turned, and come back, and the preacher was still praying. so I remember that. And then Fred, he didn't let them dairy cows keep him coming to Sunday school and church. He might come in with milk on his shoes, but he was there.
He was there.
He played the harmonica, and they both could sing. So this just going on. Like his name does it. And I know Mr. Rankin's there. He gets old that we may be on the 3rd verse, and he still be on the 2nd verse. Something, and he'd go, "Precious name." He'd go, "Precious name, oh, how sweet." And boy, we'd look around, we just had to laugh, But he was a good old guy, I tell you what. One morning, she called me at 5 o'clock, and I was feeding the cows for them. They didn't have a bull. They had them cows for 5 years, never did have a bull on them. They get so fat, And she said, "I want you to stop this morning." And I went down there, and they had 2 $5 bills. I want you to give that to your girls. Well, I said, "You don't need to do that." "Yeah, I will give that to give you girls." I said, "Well, that's not necessary." "Well, you just stop, help us out a lot, I said, "Well, that's not necessary." Well, you take the girls, So I took.
Tell me, what was Granny's role in the church?
Huh?
What was Granny's role in the church?
She taught Sunday school for years and years. She played the piano, we taught about 40 years when nobody else did. She always filled in.
Yeah.
And she'd do everything. I know after she passed away, they'd say, "Well, now what about this?" And they'd say, "Well, I don't know, Jenna did that." "Well, what about this?" And the preachers they said, "Well, I don't know, Jenna part of that." So they had to get a new lesson.
Yeah, she had her hands.
Well, she enjoyed it though. That's the thing about it, and she didn't do it for glory. She was kind of did it secretly, This type of person.
Yeah, she was not the bragging sort.
Yeah,
she didn't draw attention.
She did
to
it for the
herself.
Lord.
Yeah,
yeah.
She was a good example.
Yeah.
Do you remember the story about when you and/or Granny first started your relationship with Jesus?
Well, Jenna was a church-going little community church down at Salem, about the size of our church. It wasn't quite as big. And so she was a church-goer. She grew up in church, and she loved Jesus very, just like your grandkids, They was taught, And it wasn't nothing to do. But she was a Methodist, and I was a Presbyterian. She was a true Methodist, and I was half-time Presbyterian. So I went and joined her church. I have my membership up to here.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
well, is there anything else you want us to know about Granny and about your time being married to Granny?
Well, it's one of the most lovable times of my lifetime, along with the 2 kids. I always said she did a wonderful job of raising our 2 girls. She took time I can't feel bad because I was out, had so many jobs, but she took in 4-H meetings and this and that. And I tried to go best I could, but she was always there for them. And she helped a lot of the other kids in the community. We got cards in there. They always thanked Jenna and us taking kids in, talking to them. They always felt home. Every time they come to visit the girls, they always felt this was part of the home. And I got over 100 birthday cards over there, and some of the message on there almost made me want to cry. What they thought meant to them coming into home, and Jenna always made them feel so welcomed.
What was the one thing you admired most about Granny?
Granny?
Yeah, what was something you admired the most about her?
She loved people. She loved people. And you know, I've had a lot of people, Lynn one of them, and a lot of people said, you know, I heard her never say anything bad to anybody.
Yeah.
Boy. Yeah. You know.
She was something else.
She might have thought of something, but she never expressed it. But I'm a little bit mouthing off too much sometimes, she'd say.
She was strong but very gentle
Yeah.
at the same time.
Strong lady. She loved every one of them girls, I tell you, these two daughters, and they show it. And my daughter know what love is. Boy, they expressing it to Daddy. And you know, I tell you, when Granny was on her deathbed, they called me, and you was here with me that night.
I was here.
We got better, went in there, and they said I had signed that paper, and we'd already expressed years ago that we got to this stage, either one of us, we didn't want to linger. And I signed the paper, and I just had stepped out, and I think this is correct, to use the bathroom just a few steps outside, and come back. It was getting pretty close to him, but while I was gone, she said, told Debbie, said, well, I know I can't get well, and I'm ready to go, but what about Pawpaw? Debbie said, don't worry about Pawpaw, we'll take care of Pawpaw. She always thinking about somebody else right at the very end.
I remember being in that room with you, Papa, and holding your hand and holding her hand, and she couldn't speak at that point.
Yeah.
But her eyes told us everything. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Her eyes let me know that it was going to be okay and that she was okay and that she had a peace about it at that
That's
point.
right. Yeah.
I remember.
She was a trooper to the very end.
Yes, she was.
So she knew where she was going. And I think she knew pretty well what she's leaving behind. You know.
She left an amazing legacy.
And if we keep our path right, we know we're going to join her someday.
I agree. I remember when I was a little boy, you and Granny used to take me on trips to Colorado a couple times. Tell me, before the Colorado trips, after you retired, you know, you still had the farm, the girls were out of the house, you and Granny used to travel around. Where was like your favorite place to travel to?
Well, you know, it's hard to say. You know, we liked a lot of the Northeast, especially the maple. In the fall of the year, the maple we saw up there.
You would go to Maine?
Oh, I tell you what, up there, I forget what that is, eastern Pennsylvania. We had to go through there in that sugar maples. I don't think I've ever saw a sight like that. Of course, we love Colorado. We made a lot of trips in Colorado.
I remember those.
Yeah, every one of those. And we made the Alaskan trip. I really enjoyed that because we had that inland where we stopped every morning, you know, different Saturday, you know, 4 or 5 stops before we got into mainland, you know. And then we went to Australia and New Zealand. We enjoyed that. But that was a 14.5-hour flight from L.A.
It's a long one.
And you know, I almost lost her on that trip. Her blood pressure got plumb high.
Really?
And I didn't know it. They back there woke up and everybody around her, you know, the nurse, you know, her blood pressure was high.
So was she hospitalized when you landed in Australia?
No. She kind of got that, I kind of get over it, you know. I don't know whether the flight was so long and hard or what. And I was sitting at the USA drugstore taking my blood pressure, and I told her to cut. I said, get over here and take that. And that's when a few weeks after we got back, noticed she had high blood pressure.
Yeah.
And that's we going to the doctor just so we can get a point. So she had to watch that closely.
What do you remember about the trip to Australia and New Zealand?
Well, the Australian people I believe, was friendlier than the New Zealand people. More laid back, you know, trying. And the New Zealand was the cleanest place I ever saw.
Yeah.
The northern island, we stayed with a farmer. There, they had raised dairy heifers. We got out on a farm, and we went from Christchurch on a bus down to some bay big sheep farm down there and had a big mill. And it was about a 4-hour drive down there on that bus. And I told Jenna, I said, on that 4 hours down through, I saw one little piece of paper. That's how clean that place was. I can walk out here down there and pick up, I got to pick up trash for a mow my yard right away down here a quarter of a mile this way.
Well, we do live next to a dump, Papa.
Huh?
We do live next to a dump.
Yeah.
So going back a little bit, before you retired, you had the girls here. Where would you? How was it raising 2 daughters in this house?
How it was in 2000?
No, how was it raising 2 daughters in this house?
Oh, it's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun now. Donna was a little problem on that. She wanted to go drive. She wanted to drive, and it's get one of these ice storms. And I tell you what, it would just freeze back over just like every night. It'd thaw out just a little bit. So what was slushy, I went to Pendergrass to do something, take something, to do something, come back. She says, now see, Daddy, now it's all clear. I said, Donna, 2 hours is going to be glazed over again. I said, it's going to be just like ice again. Now this, Donna may correct me, but it might be, I don't know, it's been on 10 days or so. And one night I told you, I said, boy, let's play tonight, it don't freeze yet. But that's what she did that one time. That suited her.
Yeah, she got it.
But it was disgusting to her, and I didn't want to get hurt. But no, we fun. They bring girls out here, and then we treat them. They've had fun with the girls. They just good girls.
How did the girls help with the farm work?
Huh?
Did the girls help with the farm work?
Yeah. They them grapes we had back there, I use a pneumatic hose, go around the grapevines, but to leave little suckers down there, you had to break them off, because if you get too far close to that hole, you take the whole vine out. Debbie back there one day, and the plane come over, we was working, and Debbie looked up and said, help! She needs some help,
Do you remember any of the games you would play as a daddy to your girls? Do you remember playing any games with your girls back in the day?
Oh, seems like I know one thing. In the old house, a big window here, they always waited me to come home to see me every night. In the old house. And somebody when they were building this house, he said, "Now where's the kids' room's going to be?" I said, "Right in here." What? I said, "Yeah, I've been going all day. I want to see watch them there."
So their kids' room is right by your feet.
I didn't want it in some kid room, lost room, I want to see them. And they always waited for Papa. And this girl here loved flowers. We come to church one day. She was always picking flowers. She really Donna loved flowers, and still, she's a flower girl, I'll tell you.
What was Debbie's big love? What did she like so much?
Oh, what did Debbie like? I don't think any one of them liked shoring calves, but they did that for Daddy. But Debbie was a little better at it than Donna, maybe. But Donna was a big sewer. Debbie didn't sew at all. But Donna wanted a sewing machine in 4-H to be in a sewing.
Debbie liked outdoors and sports.
Yeah, Debbie liked more
Debbie was your
outdoors.
sports person.
Yeah, Donna was more indoors,
Papa, we talked about earlier about how when you and Granny were dating, you had some distance between you two. You would talk on the phone, but what are the other ways that you all communicated together?
Well, we wrote letters.
Yeah.
And she always got okay. I started up here on the left hand, wind up to the right hand, kind of, But I had to go get a pay telephone. Where I stayed at a house, didn't have phones, in my room. And I had to eat out all the time. But the lady I was staying with, she took a lot of trust. I did all of her banking, Only about 3 people stayed in her house. But she said, "Joe, now you got to go to bank to me today. Now don't you eat out, I'll have supper ready for you." So I did banking for you, And as we started dating, I'd bring Jenna by. Oh, this is the young lady you've been staying out with, you know. But she was a German lady. She was really a nice person.
Who was this woman?
Well, I can't think of her name now, but she had that for years and years, you know. She had 2 daughters, I believe. All of them went to Tech, you know. Of course, they're much older than me, you know. But they live in the Little Rock area, I think. But I'll think of her name in a minute. But it's German name. She was German.
Yeah.
You know, and but I did her banking for you and everything, you know.
What were some things that you and Granny really enjoyed together doing, like activities that you enjoyed doing together?
Well, I believe everything. We both loved the fish. You know, Nimrod Lake down there, that was really a crappie lake. And her Uncle Bill, Sally's half-brother, and Theo's brother, why, they had a boat motor, so it was easy to just go fishing, you know. And then after we got married, we loved to fish. We loved river fishing, you know, wading, you know, and stuff. We sure did like up Elk River, up at that Noah. We sure liked that river.
Who was the better fisherman?
Well, she was pretty darn good, I tell you what. She had a lot of patience, you know, and it didn't make any difference, you know. But we like to do that, and we just like to swing on the front porch of her folks. She stayed with were the nicest people. I love those 2 older couples. I'll tell you what, they were really nice to me. Anybody, I've been down to Hope and doing research and come back through there, and boy, about Friday, I was sick, you know. I just had a 24-hour bug. And I said, I gotta go over and get me a room. They said, no, you're not getting a room. I got a room in here. I said, I might give you something. No, you won't either. So they maybe stay there. Well, the next morning I was pretty well over it, you know. Everything was all right. But they just, they was so nice, you know.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever not met any nicer people, those 2.
These are the Poteets?
Huh?
The Poteets?
No, Gillespie's their name.
Gillespie.
Yeah.
You and Granny had a really strong marriage. You're bound very close together. What made your marriage so strong?
Well, I think we liked one thing. We kind of liked the same thing, and we was decent person. We was Christians. Wasn't perfect, and I didn't ever see a Christian that's perfect. So we was along with the class, but we knew one thing, that the guy that we worshiped, believed in, went to the cross. He died for us. Took, you know, for our sins. And one thing he left, he loved us all. He made a place for us. And I always said love is one of the most important words in the Bible. And love never dies, you know. I always remember. And we had, Granny and I, we had a lot of love for each other. And all during that 60-some years, it never died. I tell you what, it never died. And I believe it's got stronger. I don't know what she's doing, but I know one thing. Boy, I look at pictures at night, and I tell you, I love you, you know. How did I find you, you know? It was a blessing. I found somebody as nice as she was. And to give a thing about her, when I made a trip down to Las Cruces, New Mexico, to the meeting, why, it snowed up here pretty heavy. Well, they got us to Fort Smith, and couldn't land up here. We just had the airport down here, Fayetteville, and they brought us up in a taxi. When I got home, Jenna had already took the old 50 Chevrolet out the truck and had the cattle fed, you know. So she was capable of taking care of stuff when I was gone, you know.
So she showed love to you by her actions and what she did.
Me,
She showed you love by her actions.
she's always didn't want me to get hurt or anything like that and everything. Just like her deathbed, you know.
Mm.
She was concerned about me right up to the very end. Now that's something else. What about Pawpaw, you know?
Yeah.
Thinking about me.
I remember every time we would go out and work the cattle together in the bullpen, she'd always have breakfast for us ready.
Oh yeah.
Always.
Yeah. She'd come out and say, how much time you got? When are you gonna be ready? You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's a good cook.
I always remember Granny being a very intelligent woman, even though she'd never had a college education. What do you think kept her so sharp?
Well, I tell you what, she was smart. You know, when I worked on my master's, at that time, we had to do everything in India ink, you know, our graphs and tables and stuff, and typing. We didn't have computers and all that kind of stuff, and she did all that for me. I'd do it in pencil, and she'd take it, make it neat and everything, you know, and it was really a blessing. Had it, and she was good English. She knew English too. If you,
She did. She always proofed my papers.
that's right. You bet. You know, she told me one day that her daddy and them never did all say, so you need to go to college, but he took his son over and took care of him. You know.
Yeah.
Robert was a smart individual.
Is there any other information you want to pass along to all of us married couples about, you know, what kept you all so strong?
Well, y'all pretty well on your way now. Y'all, you know, I don't care where you go to church if you just as long as you worship Jesus Christ and know what He died for us, you know. And like I say, I use this word love. Love is a very important word to people. And I think you find out when you got your own kids, you know. And love never dies. Love never dies. And Jesus made it to take care of not being perfect, but we're going to get to heaven because we're a strong believer in Him, you know, what He did for us on the cross. I'm not trying to preach this morning at all, because everybody for their own thing. But I'm glad that there's a place hereafter, you know.
Yep, He's our hope and future.
Yeah.
Going back to your family, do you remember, what are some of your favorite memories of having kids and time spent with them?
Well, you know one thing, they study hard in school and everything, and hard workers. They're both hard workers, you know. They're not afraid to work. They're extra workers. And I think you say, who do you get that from? I think you get it from their mama and their daddy, you know. Jen and I, we work together a lot.
I've always viewed that you and Granny were always very diligent and hard workers and very generous with your time and money.
Well, you know, she get in that chair at night the last few weeks, you know, and she'd be sweating and get warm, you know. And about a week or so, she was laying here, and I asked her, I said, your stomach, Granny, look a little big, is it hurt? No, it don't hurt. So I got up, just kind of, you know, did it like that. No, that don't hurt either. No, that don't nothing hurt. But there was something in there we didn't know. It was hidden. It was hidden. Her, you know, there's something wasn't right, but it wasn't. It didn't express itself to us, you know, the hurt. You know, and she never complained or nothing.
Yeah.
You
She
know,
went through a lot of pain there.
to the very end.
You know, my kids are not to this point yet, but having, when your kids are older and they start dating, how did you handle your daughter's dating?
Well, I think we had enough confidence in them that they was on the right track, you know. We had confidence that they was going to do the right thing, you know.
Yeah.
They'd find somebody who loved them, and I think both of them found somebody that I don't think could beat that burning. I love that burning with all my heart. I tell you what, I didn't have a biological son, But I'll tell you what, I don't think a biological son would be any nicer to me than Vernon is to me.
He's helped out a lot for sure.
Your daddy is a great man.
Papa, tell me a little bit more about your son-in-laws and what they've meant to you.
Well, I think I told you about Vernon. I want to say something about Larry. Larry is, he didn't know about farming, but he sure know how to build duplexes and stuff. He's been really good to me. You know, give you one thing, they knew I liked to go out to Colorado, and I like to ride that train one more time. They took me out there a few months ago, footed all the bills. He finally let me pay for gas, but didn't cost me anything, you know. And he was sure a good trooper on that trip. And he'd always bring me snowballs. You know what snowballs is?
What's that?
Well, that's that marshmallow on his hat and chocolate inside called snowballs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know where he got that name, but he always bring that. And he always very complimentary to me. And I'm proud of Larry, what he's done, and how him and Debbie getting along in their marriage too. That they're a fine couple. Their kids are good kids. I tell you, we're lucky to have both families and doing good and everything. And I know whenever we had this flood in here, Larry had it. He'd come in and get the old hot water tank out and tuck it and got a new one for me, and had one guy worked for him come put it in, you know, and saved a lot of money and everything, you know, and knew how to get it done and everything. So I've got two son-in-laws that have been a big help for me, you know, different ways, you know.
Yeah.
That's what makes it nice. Then instead of being both of them the same thing, why, you know, you get them different ways to help you on different things.
That's
And
good.
I
You've
love
been blessed.
both of them very much.
Definitely been a blessing. Any pieces of wisdom for your kids or for your grandkids?
Yeah, I think you want to treat them with a lot of love, with discipline.
How did you discipline Debbie and Donna?
I didn't have too much, did I, Donna?
Granny did it.
Yeah, Granny.
Well, then how did Granny
You know,
discipline them?
Yeah, I think your mother and daughter is pretty important with girls, and boys. You know, boys will be boys. So, you know, you have to more adventurous. You know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I tell you what, I think me and Granny, we were both believed in Jesus Christ from early age.
When did you accept Christ as a? Do you remember?
12-year-old.
12-year-old. Where was that at?
Presbyterian Church of Mountainburg. Let me back up. My grandfather donated that land for that church. My mother donated the land for the health clinic there. She donated the land for the park there at Mountainburg, and that park was named after. I've got pictures here someplace of it. You know.
If there was any time period in your life you could go back to, where would you go back to?
Time period. Well, I wouldn't want to go back to the army. I guess I could be a child, go back with a room in the mountains, trapping, hunting, fishing. That I could just, I take me an old cane pole and go with the axe and through. We had that creek run through our farm about 1.5 miles, and it, like I tell you, it had all kinds of different species of fish in it. Take that stump, dig in and get them grub worms.
Yeah.
Now those that come out of the stumps you put a hook, they stay white, but you get the grub worms out of the ground, they turn black on you.
What was one
I
of
guess
the,
what they eat.
what was one of the hardest things you ever had to overcome, Papa?
What?
What was one of the hardest things you ever had to overcome?
Injury?
Injury, anything.
Well, let's see. One of them I had quadruple bypass. And then after that, 4 months, I had abdominal aneurysm. That had to come. Next thing, I had to come on that stent. I mean that valve put in Colorado 4 or 5 years ago. That probably was the biggest thing. More dangerous.
Your knees.
Knee was the last thing.
Speaking of the knee, I think of all those surgeries, the knee was the most elective surgery, right? The heart's had to happen, but the knee was elective. And I never always thought about, you didn't have to do those surgeries, but you chose to because you wanted to have a quality life, quality, time here and spending more time on the farm with grandkids. And I always admired that you chose to go through that pain to have that time with us.
You mean on the knee?
Yeah, your knee.
I tell you what happened there. It was that after I had that thing, everything locked down on me, kidneys and all that. They talking about dialysis and stuff. I don't know. Donna might tell you about that. We thought anesthesiology, the stuff was my problem with that. After effects, it wasn't a knee surgery. Dr. Sykes told me it took a little longer because this one had always run over a little bit. So he had to do a little bit of correction on that.
Yeah.
Took a little bit longer, he said. Boy, it's fine.
Yeah, it's done well.
Yeah.
You, when I drop the kids off in the morning, you usually are out there before I'm here.
Yeah.
Feeding cows. Papa, what is something that you've done in your life that you feel the most proud of?
About most what?
What is something that you have felt pride in about yourself?
Pride of?
Yep. Something you've accomplished or something you've done that you've felt proud of.
Well, I tell you what, I'm so tickled that technology was developed in order to me survive as long as I have. I wish they could find something for cancer that would take care of. But I was able with those to continue doing walking at 90, which is a blessing to me. And I love to get out. I've always had farming in my background, I've loved nature and everything. And I was praised that I was able to raise a little small town of Mountainburg where I had mountains, streams to fish in, hunting in the wintertime to hunt raccoons, possums, and every once in a while we trap a fox, but I never was smart enough to get a mink. And so they was too sly, You had to try to get in water to do that. We had a guy in Mountainburg named Vault. Boy, he could trap minks, and at that time they were worth about $3,500 a pelt. Fur coats. These rich people could wear them. People in New York and those kind of areas.
I feel like I enjoy hunting and fishing, and I feel like when I do those things, in some way I'm following in your footsteps.
Yeah.
I've always enjoyed that.
It's a good habit, and I was happy to do it.
Is there? You've led an amazing life, Papa. Is there anything that you regret, of either not having done or having done that you regret doing?
Well, probably. I regret I didn't spend more time with a girl through 4-H and stuff. I was so busy on the farm and had to travel some out of state and in state, And I consulted, 10 years after I retired from university. I consulted for Merck, Pfizer, and all those. Lancaster, we had a consulting business, and we did that for 10 years. And he came out here one day and said, what do you think, how much longer we're going to do it? And I said, Jen and I, we'd like to travel some. I'm ready to quit. I said, the winter's getting colder, the summer getting hotter. And I said, well, okay, that'd be all right with me. And he hadn't even got back home. One of our ex-students from Cody, Wyoming called and wanted us to do some work. I said, no, I know Mike real well. He's one of my favorites. But I said, Tucker, he can do that for him. So we get him lined up with a guy named Tucker. And
you remember being a young man and thinking back to your ambitions and your dreams of what you wanted to do in your life? What were some of your dreams of a young man?
Of a man?
Of being a young man, what were some of your ambitions and dreams?
Well, early I wanted to be a coach. And then growing up on the farm, we had agriculture. Our first time we had agriculture in Mountburg, in the high school. And I liked, his name was Gillespie, and he was a nice fellow. And I got interested. I thought, well, I'll be agri teacher. And I had a cousin. He came back in World War II, and he said, "Oh, Joe, you don't want to teach. You start your own business." Said, "You'd be better." Well, I didn't. I was almost a teacher in a way. You know, I helped a lot of students in there. I give you the example. Dr. Lancaster took off on sabbatical leave for 15 months in Montana to learn more about ticks, diseases. And I was in charge of the whole lab and I had 2 graduate students to get through. And one of them was Bill Gladney. Bill said, "Joe, I want you to sit in on my oral exam." I said, "Well, I don't know. You know," I said, "well, I've just got a master." And he said, "I want you there." I said, "Well, who's supposed to be leader here since?" I said, "Well, Dr. Wally." I said, "You go talk to Dr. Wally." Dr. Wally, we used to bound bag some together, you know, eat lunch together. And he went up there and he said, "Well, sure, we welcome him." He come back and told me, and he said, "Now, I will sit in on it, and I won't ask you unless if they ask me to do something." But I said, "I'm going to give you 3 questions if they ask me, and I'm going to give you the answer to them. You probably know them anyway." So I got to, after all the doctors, you know, I asked a question, said, "Joe, you'd like to ask him something?" And I started out, I said, "Well, I'm going to say this about Bill. He was cooperative with me after Doc left, and he was cooperative with all the other students in the lab and everything, and the technicians." I said, "He's a wonderful job. It was a pleasure to have him." And I asked him those 3 questions, you know, that I'd already gave him, you know. And I guess I'll not tell this. When I was at Tech, I had that soils, you know, soils, SOILS, and it had a lot of chemistry in it. And my good friend I met in the English class, he's having a little bit of trouble with it. And this 2 sessions of it. I was in the first session. And I told Sam, I said, it's winter time, I said, "You know, on each table, I'm going to throw my coat up, then they'll pass them tests out. If I can get some fine, I want to get one put on my coat." So it was there, and Professor Hughes came along and said, "Joe, what do you get on that coat?" I said, "Oh, I tell you, Mr. Hughes, it's cold outside. I got my gloves on there." He just went, "I don't buy it. I didn't have no gloves on there, no more nothing." And I got that, and I took a chance on doing it. But Sam told that story years ago. I said, "Sam, what are you telling that for?" You know, he was having trouble with it, you know. But I'm still glad I did it. But didn't hurt nothing.
Papa, over all the years knowing you, I've looked up to you for a long time about the way you've handled life and your business, your marriage, the way you're generous, and the way that you speak about other people really tells me a lot about who you are. Are there other people in your life who have you looked up to in that way?
Dr. Lancaster, my boss.
Yeah.
He told me, "Joe, I'm not your boss. We're partners in this." When he wrote a book, he said, he went on practical entomology, you know. He said, somebody from England, I got the book he gave me, and he said that signed it. He said, "My partner in research." And that's the way he signed it, you know, "My partner in research." And he would tell people, said, "You know, we get a new protocol, do a project," and said, Joe was so much on the ball that he'd have it ready to go next morning. And whenever I told him one day, I said, we use that CO2 and chilling them in the refrigerator on these flies. We don't know how many weeks before we put into the test, you know, tubes with insecticide is at different levels. And I said, "They may be weak to start with." And he said, "Yeah, I don't know what to do." And I said, I've got an idea, Doc. And he said, what's that? And I said, play no light. He said, light? I said, yeah. And I said, let me demonstrate. We went in a room, and had windows. And I said, I'm going to turn these lights and you watch where they go. They made it to light. And he said, you think you get that to do it? And I said, yeah. I have to get my wife to sew some sleeves on it where we get in now, these cages and stuff. And I published that. They ran off 100 copies, and they ran out of copies, people from other universities and overseas, even Australia, New Zealand, England, wanting copies of that.
Yeah. It'd be shameful if I didn't mention your love for the Razorbacks. What is that? What has the Razorbacks meant for you over the years?
When I was at Mountain Berg, I come and came up with the Agri teacher to see us play Texas. A guy, one of the best ball players I ever saw. The building's not there. It's an old swimming pool. The building there, just a little gym. I don't think it's seat over 1,000, 1,500 people. Slater Martin was that guy named. Boy, I tell you, he was some ball player. That was 1947 was the first time I saw baseball there. I mean, basketball game there. And I remember George Coke, he's a big, tall guy. I remember a lot of them people.
You and Granny used to go to a lot of basketball games.
When we got married, I got tickets, half price, and been on the staff and faculty there.
Yeah.
And I still got them. Larry gets my basketball. I give the football up. Nobody wanted them this year, so everybody got their families, and
what are your memories of you and Granny going to the basketball games? Is that a special time for you all?
I tell you, when we was in Barn Hill, when Sutton came, and they remodeled that for 9,000, 10,000 people, we stood up about 3/4 of the game.
Yeah.
That thing was live. I tell you, it was something else. Barn Hill's all right, but it wasn't the closeness as that Barn Hill was.
Yeah.
Of course, Sutton was X&O. Sutton was one of the best coaches. Now Nolan probably was real good too.
Mm-hmm. He
but
was.
He knew how to handle them black guys.
Well, they brought a championship for sure.
He brought the championship. Almost got the second ones.
Yeah, he was close.
Yeah, he's a good coach. He knew how to handle players.
Yeah.
That style of play has kind of subsided a little bit now.
What's it like now?
Well, Anderson couldn't repeat that. He tried to.
Yeah.
Anderson was a good guy. Morally, he was a good guy.
Well, Papa, is there anything else you'd like to tell us, or any other wisdom you'd like to impart on us?
Well, yes. First, I want to mention two people in our church. That's Michael and Rita Callahan. They are two lovable people. And he did get in ministries for a long time. He had a scholarship playing golf at A&M. He got a degree, but he didn't get in ministry till later in life. He was what they call a pro golfer, run a golf course over in Tulsa for years, and he always wanted to be a preacher in the background, but he's strictly a small church preacher. He was one of the churches up Villa Vista, Highland, one of the smaller churches, and then he drove 75 miles one way to Dry Fork between here and Harrison, him and his wife, to preach till he found our church out here. She can play the piano all by ear. They both can sing beautiful voice. And he loves everybody. He treats everybody the same. And he preaches the Bible. He don't paint any color. He don't get loud. He just tell how it is. Just like White Jesus went about his business when he was here on earth,
Yeah.
And those two people is the backbone of our church. And we love him. He loves this church, and we love him very much, those two, him and Rita. We really love what they're doing for them. They'll soon be 9 years they've been here. And they really done a wonderful job. And then I want to thank Donna and Debbie, what sweet girls they are, what they've done for me. Not only during I lost my loved one, Jenna, but I want to tell you, those two girls, they got a lot of my wife's habit and love. And I couldn't have married anybody that I would love more than Jenna. Still love her. And all you grandkids, your boys and daughter, I love you all very much and proud of all of you, what you amounted to. And I know that the guy upstairs love you all too for the love you have for him. So keep the good work up. And all of you remember this, that love never dies. You got kids, you got a sweet wife, I know, so don't let that love ever die.
Thank you, Papa.
Yeah. Amen.
Amen.